Chapter 1021. I'll secretly show him. Zhuangzi chuckled again. Boss, you know a lot of people. Let me see if there's a girl suitable for me. Let me think. Yundong frowned and seemed to ponder carefully for a while. After a while, he suddenly looked up. There really is a very good girl. Zhuangzi's eyes lit up. He automatically sat down on the chair beside her and eagerly handed her a cup of tea. Really? Which girl? Boss, tell me quickly. This was Yundong's first time trying to matchmake someone. She was afraid that, if he did not say it well, someone would mess it up. For some reason, he was a little nervous. You've seen Su Changshun's sister, right? Zhuangzi blinked, then blinked again, looking confused. He has a sister? He had only seen Changshun's mother. About the sister? Yes. He vaguely heard Changshun mention that he had a younger sister in his family. However, he had never seen her before. After hearing it, he quickly threw it to the back of his mind. After all, he was a man. It was not appropriate for him to ask about girls. Yundong. You've worked with him for so long. Lan Huar has worked with Su Qing for so long, and you've even been to the Su family twice. You actually don't know that Su Changshun has a sister? Yundong was stunned. What was in your mind every day? Was there only money and the goal of becoming a shopkeeper? Zhuangzi was smart and immediately reacted. He immediately asked excitedly, The girl the boss wants to introduce to me is Changshun's sister? Yes. Yundong glanced at him from the corner of her eye and said speechlessly, His sister's name is Su Qing. She's now working as a female employee at New Tea Pavilion. It can be considered that she has something in common with you. Of course. Zhuangzi thought of his sister and Zhang Bao. These two seemed to have endless things to talk about every day. He was instantly interested. To be able to enter New Tea Pavilion as a female worker, she must be smart and good-looking. Still, boss, this Changshun family is from the prefectural city. Although I'm now a shop assistant in the prefectural city, I'm still a country bumpkin. Would they like me? Well, this was a very realistic problem. Yundong raised her eyebrows. Mother Su has taken a fancy to you. However, she could not let him know. Otherwise, this kid's tail would be raised to the sky. She touched her chin and said, The Su family doesn't seem to care about these things. But there's something I have to tell you clearly. Zhuangzi saw that her expression instantly turned serious and hurriedly sat upright. Boss, tell me. You know that Su Changshun was accused of stealing, right? I know. Speaking of this, Zhuangzi was still a little angry. Changshun is too honest. If it were me, I would rush over and tear down their door. If you accuse me of stealing, I'll steal something for you to see. Yundong covered his face. All right. You're amazing. She continued, Su Qing was once engaged. But that family canceled the engagement because Su Changshun was a stealer. They were afraid of implicating their reputation. Do you mind? Zhuangzi didn't even think about it. Why would I mind? It's clearly the other party's fault. Sister Su is lucky that she didn't marry into such a family. Otherwise, her life would be ruined. Yundong nodded in satisfaction. Although this kid was a little wretched, he was not a pedantic person. She raised her head and looked behind Zhuangzi. Did you hear that? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1022. You don't have to be so flattery. Zhuangzi was stunned. He suddenly turned around and saw Su Changshun standing behind him. Zhuangzi suddenly felt a little awkward. Well, it didn't seem right to discuss his sister behind his back. But at this moment, Su Changshun also looked embarrassed. He didn't eavesdrop on purpose. When he suddenly heard his sister's name, he was a little concerned. Coincidentally, there were no customers in the shop at the moment, so he came over to see what was going on. Unexpectedly, just as he stood at the back, he heard Zhuangzi's words. For a moment, Su Changshun felt very complicated. However, she quickly realized that the boss was going to introduce Zhuangzi to his sister. He suddenly looked up at Yundong. Boss, my sister. Su Qing has a good personality and is diligent. Zhuangzi is also smart and protective of his family. You've been with him for some time. What do you think? Su Chongshan felt that Zhuangzi was very loyal and had a good character. He was worth entrusting life to. In that case, it seemed like it was not a bad idea for his sister to marry him. Seeing that Su Chongshan didn't say anything after thinking for a long time, Zhuangzi was a little anxious. He immediately put his arm around Su Chongshan's shoulder and said, "Don't worry. I'm not good at anything else except being protective. Your sister will definitely not regret marrying me." Gu Yundong held her forehead. "Wait a minute. Don't be hasty. It's not up to the two of you to decide on this matter. I think that at the very least you have to meet Su Qing and both of you think that the other party is not bad. Only then can you sit down and talk about this marriage, right?" Su Qing still didn't know about this. It was useless for them to say anything. Zhuangzi hurriedly nodded. Yes, yes, yes. Boss, let's go over now." "Now?" The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. She glanced at him. "Are you going to look at her dressed like this?" Zhuangzi looked down. He was wearing the uniform of the shop. He had just moved the goods, and his clothes were still a little dirty. It did not seem appropriate. If he went to see her like this, she might think that he was a sloppy person who did not like cleanliness. Then, "I'll get Lan Huar to make me a new set of clothes later. They'll go in 2 days?" Gu Yundong nodded and looked at Su Chongshan. "Go back and ask Su Qing what she thinks." He paused and added, "Tell her in front of your mother." "I understand, boss." Gu Yundong glanced at Zhuangzi, who hurriedly said, "My parents are fine. They said that as long as I'm willing, they'll come and propose marriage later." Gu Yundong did not say anything else. They agreed to meet the shop. At that time, Su Qing could take the opportunity to visit Su Chongshan and talk to Zhuangzi. If both parties were satisfied, Gu Yundong would not have anything to do after that. Gu Yundong heaved a sigh of relief. Indeed, it was too difficult to be a matchmaker. She stood up. "All right, continue working. I'll go to the pharmacy to take a look." Zhuangzi hurriedly sent her out. "Boss, take care. Be careful of these steps. Don't splash water on the ground." Gu Yundong was speechless. She shook her body violently. Did he have to be so obsequious? Tong Shuitao could not take it anymore. She quickened her pace and followed Gu Yundong. The pharmacy was not far away. The two of them turned 2 alleys and arrived. As soon as she entered, Zhang Bao happened to be standing behind the counter, pounding the medicine carefully. As for Ah Zhu, he was tidying up the medicine cabinet. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1023. Name change. The two of them stopped when they saw Gu Yundong enter. "Miss, why are you here?" Gu Yundong was about to speak when she saw Ah Go and Ah Shu walk out of the backyard. Ah Mao was not around and was at the Million Gold Pavilion with Shao Qingyuan. Dr. Xiong wasn't around either. A medical fanatic like him was naturally the most passionate about learning cowpox vaccination. Therefore, at this moment, he was among the hundreds of doctors who were vaccinating people. However, when he was not around, the business of the pharmacy was exceptionally good. It was probably because the vaccination was about to take place in the entire city. There were still some people who were not at ease and secretly came to the medicine shop to buy medicine. If the vaccination failed, at least there would be a way out, right? Therefore, when Dr. Xiong was not around, Ah Go and Ah Shu came to help. "Miss, are you looking for us? Why don't you go to the backyard and rest first?" "No, thank you." Gu Yundong shook her head. "I'm just looking for She stopped mid-sentence. She recalled how Shao Yuan's father had addressed the guy. "Dr. Pig?" She suddenly couldn't call Ah Zhu's name. She paused and could only point at him, who was coming down the wooden ladder after closing the medicine cabinet. She said, "Come down first. I have something to ask you." Ah Zhu was confused and hurriedly walked over. "What's the matter?" Gu Yundong glanced at Ah Go and Ah Shu again and asked with a frown, "What were your original names?" The three of them looked at each other. "Miss, why are you suddenly asking this? I'm just thinking that you're not young anymore. In 2 to 3 years you'll have to get married." In the future, when you walk around outside, you can't let people continue to call you Ah Zhu, Ah Go, Ah Shu, and Ah Mao. People will think that they've entered the zoo. Why don't you change to your previous names? The three of them were stunned and paused, but they fell silent. Yundong was a little surprised. Of course, it's okay if you don't want to change. I'm just making a suggestion. No, miss. It's not that we don't want to change. It's just that… Ah Zhu hesitated for a moment before denying softly. Zhang Bao listened from the side and immediately said, I think it's good to change your names. 2 days ago, there were customers who came in to buy medicine. They directly called Ah Zhu Mr. Pig. Yundong was speechless. It turned out that Shao Yuan's father was not the only one who called him Dr. Pig. Ah Zhu glared at Zhang Bao, who raised his eyebrows smugly. After a long time, Ah Shu, who was the oldest among the three, said, Miss, we actually want to change our names, but we don't want to change back to our previous names. If possible, can you tell the boss to let us have the surname Shao? Why? Yundong was surprised. Ah Shu smiled bitterly and said, We're all orphans without parents. When the 4 of us lived together, we agreed to be brothers and relatives. That's why we randomly named Ah Mao, Ah Shu, Ah Zhu, and Ah Go. We felt that this was more intimate, as if we were a family. If we switched to our original names with different surnames, we would feel that we have become orphans again. Yundong was shocked. She did not expect them to think that way. She immediately regretted her suggestion. Although names didn't mean anything, the meaning was completely different for Ah Zhu and the others. Zhang Bao also stopped pounding the medicine. His expression became more serious and he did not speak anymore. Yundong opened her mouth and was about to say that it was fine when she heard Ah Go speak in embarrassment. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1024. I want to be surnamed Shao, miss. Actually, we're following Young Master now. Young Master treats us as his family. Previously, we've also thought about whether we can follow Young Master's surname. We're just afraid that we'll climb up Young Master's social ladder. They used to have parents and brothers, and they even had a good relationship. However, ever since their parents were gone, it was as if they were the only ones left in the world. What family, clansmen, and friends, other than hitting them when they were down, who had reached out to them? The 4 of them only had each other. They were each other's family and friends. It was only when they met Shao Qingyuan and Yundong that they gradually felt a sense of belonging. However, they had never thought of changing back to their original names. They even vaguely rejected it. Yundong understood and immediately smiled. What does it matter? They'll make the decision. Your surname will be Shao. However, you can think about your names yourself. We'll confirm it later when Brother Shao is free. The 3 of them were instantly happy. There was a hint of excitement on their faces. Really? Yes. Yundong nodded heavily. Actually, before Shao Qingyuan met her, wasn't he also alone? This was quite good. Zhang Bao was also happy for them. Seeing that the atmosphere was good, he immediately waved his hand and said, I'm here to give you names. Let me tell you, my name was changed by myself when I was 10 years old. It sounds good, right? The 3 of them were speechless. No, they refused. Seeing that the matter was settled, Yundong began to talk about serious matters. I came here today to look for Ah Zhu. I want him to go to Xingtao Street to help Shao Yuan and the others get vaccinated first. Ah Zhu was immediately interested. Sure, no problem. I'm better at vaccinating than those doctors from the Million Gold Pavilion today. They'll go now. After saying that, he turned around and ran into the house to get his first aid kit. Yundong was afraid that Shao Yuan's family was not familiar with them, so he asked Tong Shui Tao to accompany them. She went back to the small courtyard first. 2 days later, Zhuangzi went to the shop in a neat set of new clothes. At noon, Su Qing came to deliver food to Su Changshun before the 2 of them met. Yundong did not know what exactly they had talked about. But the next day, Zhuangzi ran to his parents and went to the Su family to propose marriage. Yundong was invited as a witness. Zhuangzi and Su Qing's marriage was decided in just a few days. The cowpox vaccination in the Million Gold Pavilion was also in full swing. The news of shopkeeper Pan's commotion that day still spread. Many people knew that the imperial physician sent by the capital was from Fengkai County. However, they were not sure if it was true or not. At this moment, a new title was hung outside the door of Fortune Tea House. Everyone pointed at the title and discussed animatedly. Some people couldn't wait to ask the boss for an answer. The news of cowpox vaccination had already spread throughout the prefectural city. Almost everyone knew about it. Therefore, there were twice as many customers in Fortune Tea House as last time. Shao Qingyuan hadn't returned for a few days. The Million Gold Pavilion had a place for him to stay in. Those who had finished receiving the vaccination couldn't leave for the time being. They had to stay in the Million Gold Pavilion for a few days. As an attending physician, Shao Qingyuan naturally had to deal with unexpected situations at any time. Fortunately, Shao Qingyuan had seen the traces of the person who wanted to cause trouble that day. Now that Qin Wenjing had found out, the subsequent vaccinations were very peaceful. However, on this day, 7 or 8 people suddenly came to look for Gu Yundong outside the city. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1025. Various versions of rumors. Just as the Gu family was about to eat dinner, there was a knock on the door of the small courtyard. Lu Shang was busy. Gu Dafeng went to open the door and was stunned when she saw the people outside. Why are you here? When Gu Yundong heard the sound, she quickly got up and walked out. She was also surprised to see the person at the door. Uncle Chen. It was the village chief of Yongfu village, Chen Liang. Behind him were the other villagers. There were men and women. Including Chen Liang, there were a total of 8 people. Coupled with Chen Jinbao, who had brought them here, the front of the courtyard was filled with people. The group of people looked travel-worn. Gu Yundong quickly stepped aside. Have you just arrived at the prefectural city? Come in first. We can talk later. Chen Liang wiped his face. All right, sorry to disturb you. Gu Yundong led the group into the central room. Gu Dajiang also came out and poured them sugar water. The group of people took a big sip. Their entire bodies were warm before they slowly exhaled. After catching his breath, Chen Liang said, Brother Gu, Yundong, we didn't mean to disturb you at this time. There are really some things that we're very anxious about and we want to clarify. Gu Yundong and Gu Dajiang looked at each other. Just ask. We heard that the capital has already found a way to resolve the smallpox. Now, the imperial physician is doing vaccination for everyone in the prefectural city. What kind of vaccination is that? Also, the imperial physician isn't going to the county city, right? Gu Yundong was stunned. She did not expect them to ask about this. Before she could answer, another villager beside her asked impatiently, That's right, Yundong. The imperial physician only treats people in the prefectural city and doesn't care about the county city? Wouldn't our village have even less chances? Now, the entire Fengkai County knows about this. They said that the vaccination will end in 3 months. That won't do. If they don't care about us in 3 months, won't we only be waiting for death? Why won't they vaccinate us? We heard that we have to go to the government office to register first, but we've asked. The number of people registered in the government office has long exceeded 3 months. We don't have a share at all. As soon as Chen Liang spoke, the people behind started talking at once. Among the people who came this time, other than Chen Liang, there was also the 6th grandfather's grandson, as well as those who had a good reputation in the village and could speak. The few women were also smart and capable. It seemed that everyone attached great importance to this vaccination. However, as the news spread, there were all kinds of versions. Clearly, everyone only knew a little. There was nothing they could do about it. Although the storyteller in the county city had explained the matter clearly, not everyone would go to the tea houses to listen. This caused everyone to hear different parts of the story. Still, Gu Yundong could not help but look at Chen Jinbao. Chen Jinbao was going back and forth between the prefectural city and Yongfu village to deliver goods. He should know about the prefectural city. Why did he not explain it clearly? Chen Jinbao touched his nose and laughed dryly. He didn't know how to explain. On the other hand, Chen Liang glared at him and said to Yundong, "We thought that this kid had stayed in the prefectural city for a long time and should know clearly, but we didn't expect him to know nothing. Or maybe he's simply muddle-headed and is becoming more and more unclear. I was afraid that he would delay the matter, so I went to the prefectural city to ask around." However, he was unfamiliar with the prefectural city. When he arrived, he subconsciously came to look for the Gu family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1026. It'll bring you to listen to stories. Chen Jinbao sighed secretly. It wasn't that he couldn't explain it clearly, but there were some things that he couldn't say. He knew about the cowpox vaccination method, but what shocked him was that Shao Qingyuan was actually the imperial physician from the capital. He could not tell his parents about this at all. After all, he had to keep this a secret from the beginning. What if he said it and ruined the prefecture magistrate's plans? Therefore, when Chen Liang asked, he only said that everyone in Yongfu village would be vaccinated and told him not to worry. When Chen Liang asked him why he was so sure, Chen Jinbao couldn't tell him the reason. After a few times, Chen Liang did not believe him and insisted on coming over personally to take a look. He was a responsible village chief. It didn't matter if he didn't get the vaccination, but there were so many people in the village. He was the village chief. Who would stand up for such a big matter if he didn't? He had to learn everything. Gu Dajiang was very emotional when he heard that. He patted his shoulder and said, "Don't worry. It's not as serious as you think. The method to prevent smallpox is true, and the emperor sent people to the prefectural city to inoculate people. However, it's definitely not just the prefectural city. The county cities, towns, and villages won't fall behind." Chen Liang's eyes lit up. "Really?" Gu Yundong replied, "Of course it's true. If Uncle Chen doesn't believe me, there's a very popular storytelling show tomorrow at Fortune Tea House. I've reserved a table. It'll bring you to listen to it then. How about that?" Chen Liang was stunned and quickly shook his head. "How can I have the mood to listen to other people's stories at a time like this?" The others present were interested. The storytelling shows in the prefectural city were very exciting. It was rare for them to come, so they had to take a look and listen. They originally wanted to find out more and buy something to bring back before telling others about the flourishing scenery in the prefectural city. However, after hearing Chen Liang's words, they could only lower their heads in disappointment and not express their opinions. Gu Yundong smiled and said, "Uncle Chen, don't be in a hurry to refuse. Didn't you say that you don't understand the cowpox vaccination method or if Yongfu village will be included? Go and listen tomorrow and you'll understand everything." Is that so? He could understand just because he heard about it? He couldn't help but look at Gu Dajiang, who nodded. "Listen to Yundong. That's right." His unfathomable look calmed Chen Liang down a little. He knew that Yundong was much more reliable than his son. That's fine." Chen Liang stood up. "Sorry to disturb you today. Well, leave first. I'll go with you to Fortune Tea House tomorrow." Gu Yundong hurriedly asked, "It's already so late. You haven't eaten yet, right? I'll get the kitchen to prepare a few more dishes. You can leave after eating. We've already brought some dry food. We've already eaten on the way. There's no need to trouble you. Go ahead and do your work. There's no need to send us off." Chen Liang was also very embarrassed to have come just in time for dinner. However, he had no choice. He was not the only one who could not wait. The others were the same, especially when they passed by the government office. They realized that there were many people waiting outside in the middle of the night. "Then where are you staying at night?" Gu Dajiang asked. Chen Liang said, "When we entered the city, we happened to meet Feng Danning and asked him to help book 2 large bunks in the inn. There's a place to stay." Feng Danning's business was very good now. When he came to the prefectural city last year, he also brought his wife and children over. Now that he had rented a small courtyard in the prefectural city, his days were getting better. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1027. Villagers, however, just as they finished speaking, there was a knock on the courtyard door. Feng Danning, who had just been mentioned, walked in with an ashamed expression and said to Chen Liang, "Village chief, I'm sorry." Chen Liang was stunned. "What's wrong? The large bunks are all gone." He asked many inns, but they all said that there were no more rooms. Not only were there no more large bunks, but there were also no more upper rooms or ordinary rooms. Chen Liang was surprised. There's no room in such a huge prefectural city? This was not the time of famine. Why? Yundong had thought of it just now, but before she could say anything, Feng Danning returned. Looking at the anxious expressions of Chen Liang and the others, she said, "The prefectural city is currently doing cowpox vaccination. So many commoners came after hearing the news. Not only are there no more large bunks, but I'm afraid many of the courtyards that can be rented out are also gone." This was inevitable. There were many county cities under the Xuanhe Prefecture. Those who heard the news would definitely rush to the prefectural city to verify if the news was true. In particular, there were some wealthy families with many servants and guards. Most of these people lived in large bunks. Chen Liang and the others arrived a little late, so there were naturally no rooms. Then what should we do? Why don't we squeeze in dilapidated temples for the night? Someone suggested. There were also people who glanced at the Gu family's small courtyard, but they were soon disappointed. This place was too small and there were so many people in the Gu family. It was better not to think about it. They were all from Yongfu village and had a good relationship with the Gu family. Yundong would definitely not let them stay in a dilapidated temple. That would be too demeaning. Uncle Chen, Brother Shao and I have a courtyard at the back of our shops. There are still a few empty rooms now. If you don't mind, you can squeeze in first. There were originally 3 rooms in the backyard of Gus. Zhang was the shopkeeper and stayed in one. He had also prepared a room for Zhuangzi previously, but he, Jiang Bao, and the others rented a small courtyard outside. They only stayed for the night occasionally when they were on duty, so there were only simple bedding. The other one was prepared for Chen Jinbao and the others. It was relatively large. The backyard of Shao Qingyuan's pharmacy was bigger. Now Ah Zhu and the others were living there. There were also 2 empty rooms. There were 4 rooms, so there was no problem with 9 people living there. Chen Liang still felt a little apologetic. "Isn't this too troublesome? We're from the same village. We should help each other. Uncle Chen, you've helped me a lot in the past. These are all small matters." The matter was settled. Chen Jinbao knew the location of the shop and Yundong let him bring it over. This was the first time they had seen Yundong's shop in the prefectural city. They looked at Gus, which was much bigger than the county city shop, and their eyes flashed with surprise. In the end, it was decided that the 3 women would stay in the empty room at Gus. The 3 of them would share a room. Chen Jinbao and Chen Liang stayed in the room that Zhuangzi occasionally stayed in. The remaining 4 men took a few more steps to Shao Qingyuan's medicine shop. This way it was quite spacious. At least it was much more comfortable than large bunks in the inn. Chen Liang was still a little emotional. When the Gu family's girl first brought her mother and younger siblings to Yongfu village, I thought that their family would probably have a difficult time without an adult man. I didn't expect that their family would have the best life in the entire village. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1028. Bringing them for storytelling. Chen Jinbao was a little proud. After all, Yundong was his boss now, right? It's not just her family. Ever since she came, how many people in Yongfu village have been living a good life? In the past, everyone had to go to the city to find work in the winter. Not to mention that it was difficult to find work. Even if they found it, they would work hard for 2 months. That salary wouldn't even be enough to bring them home for the new year. Now, many people are envious of our village. Who doesn't have fish and meat for the new year? Chen Liang smiled. That's right. If it wasn't for the Gu family, we would probably have to squeeze in the dilapidated temple for the night if we came to the prefectural city now. Perhaps there wouldn't even be a place for them to stay. The father and son chatted for a while before resting. The people in the other rooms were also talking about the Gu family. This was their first time in the prefectural city. Although they had the village chief Liang and Chen Jinbao to lead them, they were still extremely nervous. It was only when they entered the small courtyard and saw the Gu family that they felt at ease. Now, in this unfamiliar place, there was a comfortable place to rest. It was better than anything to be able to sleep peacefully. The Gu family, on the other hand, was still the same. They rested early after dinner. The next day, Gu Yundong brought Madame Yang and Yunke out. The marks on the little girl's body were gone. These days, she had been staying in her room and had not even gone out of the courtyard. She was bored to death. Gu Yundong wanted to take her out to relax and listen to some books. Gu Dajiang was going to the academy, Gu Dafeng was going to the market, and Bianhan was going to carve, so only the three of them and Tong Shuitao went out. The group of them went to Gus first. When they arrived, the others were already there. At this moment, they were about to help organize the goods when Zhuangzi chased them to the backyard. We're already familiar with the job. We want find the goods if you guys are moving them around. Go to the backyard and rest. Don't stay here and get in the way. The shop is only so big. There are so many of you. Chun Liang patted him. You brat. However, he still brought his people to the backyard. Gu Yundong went straight to the backyard to look for them. Seeing that they could not stay idle and were helping to clean the backyard and wipe the tables, he could not help but laugh. Uncle Chen, have you eaten breakfast? They've all eaten. Jinbao said that there's a bun shop over there. We each bought 2 big buns. There's quite a lot of stuffing, but it's expensive. Costs 2 copper coins each. In our county city, it only costs 1 copper coin. Although the prefectural city was good, big, and prosperous, people without savings really could not live here. Everything was expensive. Seeing that it was about time, Gu Yundong said to them, "Let's go then. It's about time to go over now." The few of them immediately stood up. Some of them even looked at their clothes carefully and were relieved to see that they were not wrinkled. Fortune Tea House was still some distance away from Gus. When they arrived, they realized that the entire tea house was filled with people. Even the entrance was crowded. They could not pass through. Oh my God! The business of this tea house is too good. There are so many customers. A woman surnamed Wan behind Chen Liang looked at the scene in front of her and spoke in shock. Gu Yundong looked around and saw that the waiter had indeed made an aisle at the door. She quickly led her people over. The waiter recognized her. "Miss Gu, you're here? Please come in." Gu Yundong had booked a private room early and led her men inside. The people outside the door looked at them enviously. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1029. It's actually someone from our Xuanhe Prefecture. There were still many people in the tea house. They only heaved a sigh of relief when they reached the private room on the 2nd floor. Why are there so many people? So crowded that I almost can't breathe. Everyone wiped the sweat off their foreheads and tidied their clothes. Gu Yundong asked the waiter to serve 2 pots of tea and some dishes and snacks before letting everyone sit down. He said to Chen Liang and the others, "There aren't so many people usually. Isn't the content of today's story attractive? That's why there are so many people." Chen Liang was surprised. "You said yesterday that they were talking about cowpox vaccination, right? Didn't you say that you were done? Why haven't you gotten tired of hearing it after so many days?" "The cowpox vaccination is over. There's still more to come. You'll understand when you hear it later." Chen Liang nodded, his interest piqued. He used to go to the tea house in the county city to listen to books, but at that time he would squat outside the door and listen attentively. This was the first time he sat in a private room on the 2nd floor of the prefectural city and even drank tea and ate snacks. This feeling was quite novel. If he felt this way, the others felt the same. They didn't dare to drink tea and just looked downstairs. Yunke was still like a little hamster. She wolfed down some braised meat. When she looked up and realized that no one was eating anything, she thought for a moment and came down from the table. She distributed a piece to each of them. Then, she nodded in satisfaction and continued to climb onto the chair to eat. Yundong stroked her head and heard a commotion downstairs. He's out, he's out. Mr. Fan is out. Everyone, be quiet. As expected, there was silence downstairs. The people in the private room also craned their necks to look down. Liang even stuffed the braised meat in his hand into his mouth. He widened his eyes and looked at the gentleman who had walked to the stage downstairs. He looked exceptionally elegant in his long robe. The storyteller's face was flushed. He walked to the table and arranged the shocking wood and tea before saying slowly, I've made everyone wait. I'm late. I'll apologize to everyone here first. He bowed slightly. The guests downstairs could not wait any longer. They waved their hands and said, Mr. Fan, don't mind these etiquettes. Hurry up and start. We've been waiting for many days. That's right, Mr. Fan, let's get started. We really want to know who the warrior who invented the cowpox vaccination method is. Warrior? The corners of Yundong's mouth twitched. She coughed lightly and took a sip of tea. Downstairs, Mr. Fan's movements were still slow. It made one's heart itch to go up and speak for him. After a moment, they heard a loud bang from the shocking wood. The extremely sudden sound made the hearts of the few people in the private room tremble violently. Even their breathing became light. Following that, she heard Mr. Fan's high-pitched voice. Speaking of which, last time we said that someone had traveled thousands of miles to the capital and tried all means to send the cowpox vaccination method to the Song residents. It was through thousands difficulties and dangers that it was handed over to Imperial Physician Song. Only then did thousands of people obtain this great blessing. Everyone was speechless. You have a lot of thousands. If you want to know who this person is, they'll have to explain in detail. Mr. Fan slammed the wooden stick in his hand again, and a proud smile suddenly appeared on his lips. What everyone didn't expect is that this person is actually from our Xuanhe Prefecture. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1030. Anger vented. What? Everyone was shocked. Mr. Fan, are you serious? This warrior who invented the cowpox vaccination method is from our Xuanhe Prefecture? Oh my God! It's actually someone from our side. There's such a talent in Xuanhe Prefecture. Ha ha ha, so it's our fellow countrymen. Our Xuanhe Prefecture is going to be famous. Mr. Fan, hurry up and say it. Maybe you'll say it. I even know this person. Mr. Fan looked at everyone's excited expressions with satisfaction. Not to mention them, even he was proud when he found out about this. If there was a capable person in his hometown, wouldn't he be proud? He laughed. Perhaps many people know this person's identity. Mr. Fan waved his hand. Everyone knows about Shao's, right? That's right, Shao Qingyuan's pharmacy was called Shao's. After all, he and Yundong were engaged. No matter what, they had to follow each other. Her shop was called Gus and his was called Shao's. It was so easy to remember. Moreover, they knew that they were a couple when they heard it. When everyone heard Shao's, they immediately lowered their heads and whispered. Some people present knew about Shao's, but some did not. However, in the private room on the second floor, Liang and the others were extremely familiar with this name. A few of them had stayed in the backyard of Shao's yesterday. The group of people looked at each other. In the end, they focused their gazes on Yundong. The latter pursed her lips. Continue listening? Downstairs, Mr. Fan's voice continued. This Shao's was opened from Fengkai County to our Xuanhe Prefecture. The owner of the pharmacy, Shao Qingyuan, is a handsome and extremely smart person. Mr. Fan, could it be that this cowpox vaccination method was invented by Shao Qingyuan and Boss Shao? Someone asked loudly. Mr. Fan laughed. That's right. It's Boss Shao. Whoosh! The entire building exploded. Liang and the others upstairs were so shocked that their eyes could not move. What did they just hear? That cowpox vaccination method that could prevent smallpox was invented by Shao Qingyuan? How was this possible? Mr. Fan said, Speaking of which, Boss Shao is really hiding his strength and is especially low-key. It's said that he has been interested in studying medicine since he was young. His medical talent is astonishing. Others have to memorize a medical prescription 30 to 50 times, but he memorized it after looking at it once. He can recognize those herbs that look similar after looking at them once. Let's just say that last year, there was a quack doctor scamming people in Liang County. Everyone knows that, right? That quack used weeds to replace medicinal herbs. He walked the streets and scammed the people in several villages. Even the master of a rich family fell for it and gave that quack doctor a lot of money for nothing. However, he didn't expect that retribution would come from the heavens. This person actually targeted Boss Shao's family. This Boss Shao runs a medicine shop, so he collects herbs everywhere. One of the herbs is very rare. Not to mention our prefectural city, even the capital might not have it. When Boss Shao heard that this quack had it, he wanted to buy it at a high price. He didn't expect this medicine to be fake. Boss Shao saw through it at a glance. Then, he realized that the herbs in this quack medicine basket were all weeds that looked similar to the original herbs. He directly got someone to send this quack to the officials so that the man wouldn't continue to harm the commoners. What do you think Boss Shao did to vent his anger? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1031. Unpretentious reason satisfying. Someone immediately echoed, Mr. Fan, you don't know, but I'm from the Jiao village. Back then, I saw with my own eyes that Boss Shao saw through that quack scheme and saved the lives of the entire village. Everyone turned to look at the person who spoke. That person wiped his tears. It's true. At that time, my son happened to catch a cold. In the end, that quack prescribed medicine. Not only did he not recover in 2 days, his condition even worsened. If not for young Master Shao, my son would have been killed by that quack. Mr. Fan nodded. That's right. Fortunately, young Master Shao appeared in time. Everyone instantly had a good impression of Shao Qingyuan. I didn't expect the owner of this Shao's to be so powerful. I've seen this Boss Shao before. He's very young. I couldn't tell that he has such ability at all. You don't know, but when Shao's opened, many doctors from the prefectural city went there. At that time, those doctors went crazy when they saw the herbs in the medicine shop. They said that they were all rare good herbs and wanted to buy them one by one. Moreover, they bought sacks of them. Really? Then shouldn't we go to Shao's in the future? Anyway, if I can't find the herbs in the future, I'll go to Shao's to take a look. Yundong, who was upstairs, had sharp ears. She vaguely heard some words and immediately smiled in satisfaction. How powerful was this advertisement? In the future, Brother Shao would not have to worry about business in his shop at all. Mr. Fan also looked satisfied. He took a sip of water and continued, Young Master Shao is a low-key person. He never said anything even after doing such a good thing. He quietly opened a pharmacy and bought herbs. Someone asked him why he opened 2 pharmaceutical shops instead of being a doctor since he's so talented in medicine. Guess how young Master Shao replied? How did he reply? How would they know? However, since Mr. Fan wanted interaction, they would reluctantly cooperate. Someone guessed, did Boss Shao say that he's young and is afraid that everyone won't believe that his medical skills are good? I think Boss Shao must have said that he likes to solve difficult illnesses. Those minor illnesses and pains are too simple. He wants to solve those difficult illnesses that can't be solved for more than 1,000 years, such as this method to prevent smallpox, right? Everyone felt that what this person said made sense. After all, geniuses like to challenge those with difficulty. The corners of Mr. Fan's mouth couldn't help but twitch. Boss Shao wasn't as noble as you made him out to be. He shook his head and said, No. Boss Shao said that he wants to earn money. He likes silver, so he wants to open a pharmacy and earn big money. Was it actually such an unpretentious and refreshing reason? Wasn't it a little vulgar? Upstairs, Yundong secretly snorted. Of course, it had to be more vulgar. Otherwise, what if you think that my brother Shao is a compassionate and soft-hearted person? What if you all come to buy medicine without giving him money? Wouldn't Brother Shao suffer a huge loss if they were to use moral blackmail? Previously, when someone heard Mr. Fan say that Boss Shao had exposed the quack doctor, they felt that he was a great benevolent person. They thought that if they didn't have money, they could go to his pharmacy and cry for medicine. Now that Mr. Fan had said this reason, someone sighed in disappointment, but someone asked loudly, Mr. Fan, since Boss Shao doesn't like to be a doctor, why did he develop the cowpox vaccination method? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1032. Another good news, good question. Mr. Fan was shocked. It's definitely not a coincidence that Boss Shao developed this medical prescription. This Boss Shao has a subordinate. This subordinate has a particularly pitiful background. Initially, Boss Shao didn't know about it. He accidentally heard him mention it and found out that this person's family had all died of smallpox. That was why this subordinate was alone and drifted around until he met Boss Shao. Boss Shao had been with this subordinate for a long time, so they were like brothers. After knowing his background, he began to pay attention to smallpox. He thought that if there was a way to prevent this illness, no one would be as lonely and desolate as his subordinate from a young age in the future. He thought while he was eating, sleeping, or walking. In the end, he had a flash of inspiration. If people could get smallpox, what about animals? Pigs, cows, and sheep. What would happen if they were infected with smallpox? At that time, Boss Shao ran to the farm in the suburbs. He went to see the cows first and realized that cows would get cowpox. The men who had been raising cows would also get cowpox. The problem was that those who had been infected with cowpox no longer had smallpox. Don't you think this is rare? It turns out that those who had cowpox wouldn't have smallpox anymore. Boss Shao was extremely happy. This was a very important discovery. If it's true, wasn't this a way to prevent smallpox? However, Boss Shao was still worried. He's afraid that only the cows in our Xuanhe Prefecture had this effect. What if the cows in other places don't? In order to ensure that nothing went wrong, he went to Qingyuan Prefecture, Yongning Prefecture, Wanqing Prefecture, and other prefectural cities. The results confirmed that all the situations were the same. But that wasn't enough. If it hadn't been tested on human beings, then he couldn't be sure. At this moment, that subordinate of his volunteered to experiment on himself. Boss Shao didn't agree. What if something happened? In the end, this subordinate actually contracted the cowpox himself. Wow! The people below exclaimed. They did not expect this subordinate to have such courage. If it were them, they would definitely not dare to use such an unverified medical method. If they were not careful, they would even lose their lives. Mr. Fan wiped the corners of his eyes. This is called karma. Boss Shao went to find a way to prevent smallpox because of this subordinate. This subordinate returned the favor and trusted Boss Shao so much. He was willing to take the risk. What a touching brotherhood. Yundong was speechless. Why was this last sentence so strange? Felt like something was wrong. Everyone nodded repeatedly when they heard that. It was really rare to have such a deep brotherhood. Someone asked loudly, "Is that subordinate all right?" Without waiting for Mr. Fan to answer, the person beside him replied, "He must be fine. Otherwise, why would Boss Shao send this medical prescription to the capital?" Mr. Fan nodded. Indeed, that subordinate was fine. Boss Shao felt that this medical prescription was too precious and too important to the world, so he didn't care about staying at home for the new year. He rushed to the capital and handed it over to the head of the Imperial Hospital, Dr. Song. Everyone's blood boiled when they heard that. Boss Shao is too awesome. I'm proud to have such a fellow countryman. He has made a great contribution. He has brought honor to our Xuanhe Prefecture. Awesome. Mr. Fan nodded. That's right. Boss Shao is admirable. Here, I have good news for everyone. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1033. Trying to cut the line good news? Everyone craned their necks. The voices stopped, waiting for Mr. Fan to make the announcement. Some well-informed people had already guessed it. After all, someone had just said that the imperial physician in the Million Gold Pavilion was called Shao Qingyuan. In the past, he was just a poor boy in Fengkai County. Now that they thought about it, Shao Qingyuan was that imperial physician. As expected, Mr. Fan laughed and said, "Because Boss Shao is from our Xuanhe Prefecture. He's the one who was sent by the emperor to the Xuanhe Prefecture to inoculate everyone. The person who's most familiar with cowpox vaccination is our Boss Shao. Back then, when the second prince was inoculated with cowpox, Boss Shao was present the entire time and did it himself." Wow! When the people below heard this, they were even more excited. Boss Shao was the one who taught the imperial physicians in the capital the cowpox vaccination method. Now that he had taught the doctors in the prefecture city the cowpox vaccination method, didn't that mean that these doctors were also very powerful? With this guarantee, what else was there to worry about? Someone suddenly thought of something and asked anxiously, "Since Boss Shao is from the Xuanhe Prefecture, in that case, he'll still be here in 3 months. We don't have to worry about him going to the capital?" Many people heaved a sigh of relief when they heard this, especially those who did not have time to go to the government office to register. Their eyes were closed and their faces were filled with relief. Unexpectedly, Mr. Fan shook his head. Of course not. Boss Shao came here on the emperor's orders. The other imperial physicians will stay for 3 months, and Boss Shao is no exception. Besides, the Xuanhe Prefecture's vaccination situation has to be reported to the capital. Boss Shao will still leave in 3 months. Ah! Everyone was instantly disappointed. Mr. Fan continued, "Besides, I just said that Boss Shao doesn't want to be a doctor. He still has to buy herbs everywhere. Why would he stay in the prefectural city for a long time?" After a moment of silence, he changed the topic. "Of course, everyone doesn't have to worry too much. Boss Shao will definitely teach the doctors in our prefecture city well. With him personally watching over them for 3 months, the doctors will definitely be very skilled." Although that was what he said, everyone still felt that it was best to finish the vaccination in the next 3 months. After all, Boss Shao was still present. If there was a problem, he definitely had the ability to solve it. There were also those wealthy families who had been watching. These people did not care about the 3-month deadline. After all, they had money and connections. Even if they had to pay a fee after 3 months, it did not matter. It did not matter if the imperial physician left. They could still go to the capital and find a doctor in the capital to inoculate them. In their opinion, the imperial physicians in the capital were definitely more brilliant than the imperial physicians sent from the capital. Then, the physicians they taught were naturally more powerful than the ones in the prefecture capital. No matter what, they had to send someone to the capital to find out if the second prince's matter was true. They had to see if anything would happen to those who had been vaccinated. However, after hearing Mr. Fan's words, they were more or less anxious. The most powerful big shot was in the Xuanhe Prefecture. Why were they rushing to the capital? If this person really left in 3 months, it would be useless no matter how much money they had. Therefore, after this day, the rich families of Xuanhe Prefecture began to find ways to cut the queue. They wanted to be inoculated within these 3 months. It would be best if Shao Qingyuan could personally inoculate them. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1034. Chen Liang and the others Shaku Yundong was very satisfied with the reaction downstairs. This was also the reason why the tea house announced that the story was to be continued after they finished talking about the cowpox vaccination method. The last story was actually for the ordinary citizens to hear. These people cared about the deadline, connections, and money. This time it was for these powerful families to hear. What they cared about was a safer and more reliable method. She believed that after so many days, the people they had sent to the capital to gather information should have returned. Knowing that the capital was also being vaccinated, they should be anxious. Gu Yundong took a sip of tea calmly. However, the others in the private room were completely stunned. Chen Liang and the others were all in a daze as they stood there motionless. After a long time, Mr. Fan's heavy blow downstairs ended the story. Chun Liang and the others suddenly regained their senses. However, in the next moment, they all looked at Yundong excitedly. Their voices were trembling. Yundong, is what he said true? That cowpox vaccination method was created by Qingyuan? Yes. Yundong nodded. At the side, Chun Jinbao finally heaved a sigh of relief and said to his father in dissatisfaction, "That's why I said that there's no need to be anxious. Our village will definitely be able to take turns. There's definitely no problem. You're still anxious with me and insisted on coming to the prefectural city personally. Aren't you afraid of exhaustion?" As soon as he finished speaking, Chun Liang hit his head hard. "Your words are unclear. It would be strange if I wasn't anxious." After reprimanding his son, Chun Liang suddenly chuckled again. "It's actually Qingyuan. Ha ha ha, it's actually Qingyuan. He discovered a way to prevent smallpox. In the future, there won't be any kids that can't be saved. We old things don't have to be afraid of being chased out of the house by our children if we get smallpox." He smiled and choked up again. "Good. This is great. This is really great." Chun Jinbao quickly said, "Father, do you think he'll chase you out of the house?" Chun Liang acted as if he did not hear him at all. He cried and laughed at the same time. "Ha ha ha, our village has produced an impressive person. That kid is promising. He's too promising." Yundong sighed with emotion. Chun Liang was indeed worthy of his name. He could be considered a very conscientious village chief. When the others heard this, they could not help but nod repeatedly. They even said excitedly, "Yes, yes, I didn't expect Qingyuan to be the one who did this. From now on, our village will be famous. Our village has long been famous. Didn't you see how many people from the surrounding villages came when the Gu family's workshop was recruiting? But now it's even more famous. No wonder Qingyuan suddenly left before the new year. He was gone for a few months, so he went to the capital." "Hey, did you guys hear what the storyteller said just now? He said that Qingyuan personally vaccinated the second prince. In that case, he has seen the emperor and the prince, right? Right?" When everyone heard this, wasn't that so? The wolf cub whose parents didn't dote on him and didn't even have enough to eat had actually gone to the capital to see the emperor. How lucky was he? Wait, Madam One suddenly said, "Well, Qingyuan lived so hard in the past and no one helped him. Everyone in the village called him a wolf cub. Then will he still inoculate us? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1035. The villagers' regret. As soon as he said this, the private room instantly fell silent. Other than Chun Liang, everyone else lowered their heads slightly. That's right. They all knew how tough Shao Qingyuan's life had been back then. Because he was cold to everyone, anyone who offended him would not have a good ending. When he attacked, it did not matter if they were children or old people. Therefore, the entire village avoided him, especially his parents. They warned their children to stay away from him. Shao Qingyuan was not the kind of person who would repay evil with kindness. He was cold to begin with, and he was completely willing to ignore the lives of the villagers. In an instant, all the villagers present regretted it. Chun Liang sighed secretly and said, "Qingyuan isn't as petty as you think. Isn't our relationship eased now? If you really feel that you've let him down in the past, treat him better in the future and care more about him. If he needs any help, go and help him. This shouldn't be difficult, right?" The others hurriedly shook their heads. "It's not difficult, it's not difficult. We've long stopped treating him as a wolf cub." Really? This was true. Ever since Shao Qingyuan was engaged to Yundong, he had become much more friendly. When the villagers called him on the way, he would reply. Moreover, after what happened at the Li family last time, everyone knew what kind of person old Master Li was. They felt more pitiful for Shao Qingyuan. Yundong also said, "Brother Shao is busy, so he definitely can't help everyone in the village get vaccinated. However, there are still Ah Zhu, Dr. Xiong, and the old doctor from the county. Isn't the Li family going to hold a wedding soon? Brother Shao and I will go back for a few days. When the time comes, Well, bring Ah Zhu and the others back to help everyone get vaccinated before returning to the prefecture. Most of the people in Yongfu village were actually quite good. Although there were some sh*t stirrers, the cowpox vaccination was an order from the higher-ups. There was no need to cause more trouble. Hearing this, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They didn't want Qingyuan to do it himself. There were so many people in the village and it was too much work. However, with him around, they could finally calm down. On the other hand, Liang was a little surprised. The Li family is holding a wedding. Are you going to participate? The second branch of the Li family didn't seem to have a good relationship with Qingyuan, right? Not only him, but the others also had strange expressions. Yundong nodded. Yes, we're going to attend. The Li family invited us. Coincidentally, we're also going to perform cowpox vaccination on everybody, so we'll make a trip to the Li family. Liang felt that things were not that simple. Why would the Li family invite Qingyuan and Yundong out of the blue? However, Yundong did not say much, so he did not ask further. In short, they would return from the prefectural city with good news. The storytelling downstairs had ended, and the guests left the tea house one after another. Although there were still some who stayed behind to discuss loudly, at least the road out was no longer blocked. Yundong led Liang and the others downstairs. After leaving the tea house, Liang said, Yundong, it's all thanks to your care that we came this time. Since Qingyuan is busy, we can't disturb him. Now that we know that he's the imperial physician from the capital, we're finally relieved. Everyone is waiting for our news in the village. We'll go back now. Yundong asked, are you leaving now? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1036. Yundong's return to Yongfu village. Liang nodded. Everything in this prefectural city is expensive. Let's not stay any longer. Yundong looked behind him. Although Liang had said so, there were still a few people behind him who wanted to say something but hesitated. It was obvious that they did not want to leave so quickly. That's right. It wasn't easy for them to come to the prefectural city, but they didn't go anywhere. They felt uncomfortable. Yundong thought for a moment and said, it's getting late. Let's wait until tomorrow. If we leave at this hour, I'm afraid we'll have to stay in the wilderness at night. It's not safe either. Madame Wan, who was behind Liang, hurriedly nodded. That's right, that's right. Let's stay for another night. It's rare for us to come to the prefectural city. We still want to buy something back. Another woman nodded. Yes, yes, yes. We still want to go to the market to take a look. I even promised my son to buy cakes for him in the prefecture capital. Now that they were living well, although they felt that everything in this prefectural city was expensive, they could still take out money to buy something to their liking. Liang could only nod when he heard that. He didn't have much to buy. His son often came to the prefectural city and had bought everything he could. However, the prefectural city was worth taking a look around. At the thought of this, Liang became excited. Yundong originally wanted to show them around, but Madame Wan and the others rejected her. Do what you need to do. Let's find Daning's wife. She's very free. Although Feng Daning's wife had been brought to the prefectural city, there was nothing much to do. She only chatted with people outside all day. Yesterday, they had heard Feng Daning gossip so much that her mouth was blistering. Yundong had so many things to do, so she was very busy. Besides, as a young lady, it was uncomfortable to accompany aunties like them to shop. Yundong did not say much. After bringing them to Feng Daning's residence, she went to the Million Gold Pavilion to look for Qingyuan. She promised him that she would visit him every day. Qingyuan didn't have much time either. He came out to meet her and heard her talk about Liang and the others coming over. Then, he returned to the Million Gold Pavilion to work. Liang and the others left early the next morning. When Yundong went to send them off, he saw that they were carrying bags of various sizes. They must have bought a lot of things. As soon as they left, Yundong got busy. Zhuangzi and Su Changshan had already been vaccinated in Gus' shop. They would go home to rest for the next 2 days, so Gu Yundong personally came to the shop to take charge. A few days later, Su Qing and the others also got Ah Zhu to inoculate them. She then went to New Tea Pavilion to help. There were clearly fewer guests in New Tea Pavilion these few days. After all, such a big thing had happened in the city, and many young ladies from big families had already begun to be vaccinated. After the storyteller explained Shao Qingyuan's identity that day, more than half of the large families in the prefecture capital went to Shao's. Unfortunately, Shao Qingyuan had always been in the Million Gold Pavilion. Only Zhang Bao, Ah Zhu, and the others were in the pharmacy. As such, these people could only look for the prefecture magistrate and request to cut in line. After being put in a difficult position, the prefecture magistrate adjusted the daily limit of 200 patients, finally letting these people heave a sigh of relief. However, what they didn't know was that this was originally part of the prefecture magistrate's plan. There were 200 spots a day. How many people would there be by the 6-month deadline set by the emperor? Therefore, Prefecture Magistrate Dai posted another notice at the city gate, indicating that after repeated discussion, he had decided to follow the will of the people. In order to not let everyone be in a panic, the doctors would receive more people for vaccination every day when they still had the energy. But because of this, Shao Qingyuan was even busier. However, after half a month, he still walked out of the Million Gold Pavilion. The Li family's wedding was in 2 days. Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan planned to return to Yongfu village. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1037. New worker this time. Only Gu Yundong, Shao Qingyuan, Dr. Xiong, and Ah Zhu returned. The group of people traveled light and arrived at Fengkai County quite early. Just as they were about to enter the city, Gu Yundong asked the carriage to stop. She took out the makeup box from the carriage and tidied up her appearance and Shao Qingyuan's before changing her clothes. Then, the two of them alighted from the carriage and walked into the city. Shao Qingyuan's reputation had probably spread to Fengkai County long ago. They couldn't see him in the prefectural city, so they had probably already started waiting in the county city. They were hoping to have the luck to wait for Shao Qingyuan. Fortunately, he rarely interacted with others, so most people did not know what he looked like. However, just in case, it was better to disguise himself. The two of them entered the city and planned to go to Shao's first. As expected, when they passed by the county office, they saw that the entrance was filled with many people. Back then, there were 4 to 5 doctors in Fengkai County who went to the prefectural city to learn inoculation techniques from Shao Qingyuan. Later on, they inoculated people in the Million Gold Pavilion for more than 10 days. When they completely mastered it and were familiar with it, they returned to Fengkai County and inoculated the people in the county. Therefore, like the prefectural city, there were many people waiting outside every day. Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan looked at each other. Without delay, they went straight to the pharmacy. The old doctor was not around. He was also one of the people who had gone to the prefectural city to learn cowpox vaccination. After returning, he had been helping people with vaccination in the county office. Now, there was only one newly recruited worker in the shop. This shop assistant was called Liang Jianbao. He used to be a schoolboy in the medical center and knew some basic pharmacology. Later on, the medical center was run down by another medical center in the county city, so he lost his job. That was why he was recruited by Shao Qingyuan. He was diligent, but he was not as smart as Zhang Bao. He was simply honest and obedient. When Liang Jianbao saw them coming over, he quickly came out to welcome them. "Boss, miss, why are you back at this time?" He was very happy. "Boss, you don't know, but now everyone in the county is saying that you're the imperial physician who invented the cowpox vaccination method. Our shop has been doing especially well recently, and many people have come to inquire about you. But don't worry, boss. I didn't say anything." Shao Qingyuan nodded and gave him a piece of paper. "Catch all the medicine on it first. I want to take it away." Okay. Liang Jianbao quickly took the paper and grabbed a few large bags of herbs according to the prescription on it. When he was done, he quickly handed it to Shao Qingyuan. Shao Qingyuan took the medicine bag and left. Liang Jianbao took 2 steps forward. When he disappeared, he suddenly slapped his head. I forgot to pour a glass of water for the boss and the lady. Brother Zhang clearly taught me before, but I forgot. He was extremely vexed, but Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan had already left the county. Along the way, they understood the situation in the county. After leaving the city gate, the two of them boarded the carriage again. It was a little late when they arrived at Yongfu village. Compared to the county city, Yongfu village was surprisingly calm. There was no one at the entrance of the village. They took the main road and returned home almost unimpeded. At this moment, no one in Yongfu village knew that the Shao Qingyuan they were so proud of had returned. The next day was the wedding day of the second son of the Li family, Li Zhihu and He Xiu. Second brother Li and his wife woke up early in the morning with a lot on their minds. They looked at the door nervously and expectantly. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1038. Joyous event of the Li family. Li Dunzi and Madame Du were still not sure if Shao Qingyuan would return. After Madame Dong sent the letter, he did not reply to them. As for Chen Liang and the others, although they knew that Shao Qingyuan would return to the village in the next few days, they were not sure when. Moreover, on the way back, Chen Liang had warned the 7 people who had followed him to the prefecture capital that day to keep their mouths shut and not tell anyone that Shao Qingyuan had returned to attend second brother Li's wedding. Otherwise, when everyone found out, they would all come to Yongfu village to wait for him. If those powerful people from the county took Shao Qingyuan away, Yongfu village would definitely not have a chance. Therefore, although Madame Wan and the others wanted to show off, they could only endure it when they heard Chen Liang's serious words. However, they knew that Shao Qingyuan was coming to attend Li Zihu's marriage, so they came to the Li family early in the morning. Li Dunzi and his wife were very surprised. They had invited many people from the village, but many people had said that they were not free back then. Why were there so many people now? Moreover, they were villagers who were popular in Yongfu village. When his son set off to fetch the bride, even the village chief came over. Li Dunzi hurriedly welcomed him in, while Madame Du continued to wait at the door. When the villagers saw that Chen Liang had actually come to attend second brother Li's wedding, they were all shocked. Some people were curious, so they brought a few eggs and vegetables to congratulate him. The Li family was especially lively for a moment, causing Li Dunzi and his wife to heave a sigh of relief. The bridal escort team returned very quickly. The Li family specially borrowed an ox cart to pick up the bride. He Xiu sat on it with a red veil, but there was no joy on her face under the veil. Her back was sore from sitting all the way, and Lan Huar, who had just gotten married not long ago, was carried away by the big red sedan chair. He Xiu still had a deep impression of that scene back then. Now that she was getting married, it was fine if she did not have a bridal sedan chair. But this ox was even an old ox. She did not know if it was because it was not feeling well. As she pooped along the way, she almost could not help but come down and walk on her own. He Xiu was extremely depressed, but the ox cart had already arrived at the Li family. Li Zhihu turned around and carried He Xiu into the hall. Li Dunzi and Madame Du's faces were filled with joy, but they were a little anxious. Why wasn't Shao Qingyuan here yet? Not only them, but even Madame Wan and the others were very strange. They all went to Chen Liang's side and asked, "Village chief, didn't Yundong say that they would come today? It's already the wedding ceremony. Why haven't they appeared yet?" Chen Liang was also confused. He thought for a moment and said, "Were they delayed by something? Did they not make it back in time?" "It's possible. Fortunately, I didn't say that they would return to Yongfu village today. Otherwise, people would think that I was lying to them. Why don't I go to their house and see if they've come back?" Just as they were talking, Chen Liang looked up and saw his son enter. Chen Jinbao walked straight to their table and sat down. He took a glass of water and drank it himself. Chen Liang then asked, "Are Yundong and Qingyuan back?" "Yes." The person beside him was surprised. "They really went back? Then why didn't they come over?" "What are you saying? Don't you think about how famous Shao Qingyuan is now? If he comes at this time, will the new couple still hold the wedding? No matter what, He has to wait for the wedding to end before coming. Otherwise, if this wedding can't be held, won't the Li family blame them? These words made sense. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1039. Qingyuan, you're back. Everyone felt relieved and continued eating happily. When the sound of the bridal chamber was heard from the central room, there was finally a trace of movement outside the door. Liang and the others looked up and saw a man and a woman at the door. Everyone who was eating in the courtyard was suddenly stunned. A moment later, someone suddenly shouted, "Wolf cub! Ah no, Qingyuan, you're back?" As soon as he finished speaking, everyone present stood up and rushed towards him. However, Shao Qingyuan's face was still as cold as before, and his entire body exuded an aura of no strangers. In the end, everyone stopped 2 steps away from him. However, everyone looked at him with exceptionally fervent and excited expressions. Their gazes were exceptionally burning. "Qingyuan, we've all heard that you're the doctor who invented the cowpox vaccination method." Yes. I heard that you went to the capital and entered the royal palace to see the emperor, right? What does his majesty look like? Is he so mighty that no one dares to look up? Qingyuan, I didn't expect you to have such ability. You even know how to treat illnesses and save people. You're much better than the doctors from the county. Why didn't you say anything? None of us knew that you actually know medicine. Qingyuan, why are you back at this time? Didn't you say that you would stay in the prefectural city for 3 months? Did you come back to inoculate us? Yes. We were all waiting for you to come back. Everyone was especially excited when they heard about you. The villagers were very enthusiastic. These people, who had originally been cold and distant to Shao Qingyuan, now looked at him as if he was a treasure. If not for the fact that they were still a little afraid of Shao Qingyuan, they would have reached out to touch him and see if they could get some luck. Yundong's lips twitched as she watched from the side. In the past, this treatment belonged to her. These people liked the new and hated the old too quickly, right? Shao Qingyuan, who was standing beside her, couldn't help but reach out and squeeze her. Then, he looked at the people in front of him and said, "Can we go in now?" "Ah, yes. The person in front of him hurriedly stepped back and welcomed him in. Shao Qingyuan took a few steps and Liang finally arrived in front of him. "I thought you wouldn't come back." "We agreed," Shao Qingyuan said as he followed Liang's actions and sat at their table. Everyone found it strange. Are they also here to attend the Li family's marriage? No way. Isn't Shao Qingyuan at odds with the Li family? Why is he here? He doesn't get along with first brother Li's family, but he shouldn't have much of a grudge against second brother Li, right? However, there was no need for them to get along well, right? Shao Qingyuan had suffered so much when he was young, but Li Dunzi and his wife had never helped him. It was said that they were very dissatisfied with old Li doting on Shao Qingyuan. Everyone was guessing. Li Dunzi and Madame Du, who had heard the commotion, had already run over quickly and rushed in front of Shao Qingyuan. However, when they really stood in front of them, they felt a little uneasy. "Qingyuan, Yundong, you're here?" Previously, they were also afraid of Shao Qingyuan and his wife, but in order to make their family's situation better, they mustered their courage and threw out bait to invite them over. However, they did not expect to hear some time ago that the cowpox vaccination method was created by Shao Qingyuan. How could that be? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1040. Giving Shao Qingyuan the handkerchief. Shao Qingyuan had seen the emperor before. He was very different from before. He was someone who had made great contributions and could crush them with a casual move. Not to mention that they only had a handkerchief that was originally his. Even if they had gold and silver, they would have to obediently hand it over if Shao Qingyuan wanted it. Therefore, at this moment, Li Dunzi and Madame Du's bodies were trembling slightly, and they were extremely afraid. Unexpectedly, Yundong raised her hand and handed her a bag of pastries. "Congratulations!" Madame Du was stunned and in disbelief. It was only when Liang pushed her that she suddenly reacted and hurriedly took it with both hands. Her smile was exceptionally bright. Look at how polite you are. You even gave me such a big gift. Quick, please come in. The banquet has already started outside. There's still an empty table in the room. Go and sit there. She was happy. There was a red packet on the pastry. There must be money inside. Unexpectedly, not only did Yundong not force them to hand over the handkerchief, she even gave them so much face in front of everyone. Li Dunzi and his wife heaved a sigh of relief. In the future, they would not be in a dilemma in this village. Yundong smiled and walked in with Shao Qingyuan. She was speechless when she saw the expressions of Li Dunzi and his wife. They were not the kind of unreasonable bandits who would snatch and plunder. The second branch of the Li family did not have much of a grudge with them. The second branch had a handkerchief in their hands, and they needed this handkerchief. They would give a red packet in front of everyone and treat it as buying the handkerchief from them. Everyone would just take what they needed. The two of them entered the central room. The people outside wanted to follow them, but they were stopped by Liang. All right. Today is the Li family's big day. Let's talk after the banquet is over. Madame Wan and the others also said, That's right. If you don't want to eat, Qingyuan and Yundong still want to eat. When everyone heard this, they could only suppress the excitement in their hearts and silently return to their seats. However, the buzzing discussion never stopped, and their gaze was fixed on the central room. Unexpectedly, not long after, Shao Qingyuan and Yundong stood up and followed Madame Du into the room. Where are they going? To see the bride? That didn't make sense. Wasn't the bride in the other room? Shao Qingyuan was really not interested in the wedding banquet. He was here for the handkerchief. After taking 2 sips of wine, the two of them followed Madame Du to the main room. As soon as they entered, Madame Du closed the door and locked it. Then he took out a key and opened a coat box in the corner. He lay inside and took out a small box. Then he used another key to open the box. She had hidden it very well. Not only were there 2 locks, but there was also a compartment in the last box. The handkerchief was taken from that compartment. Yundong guessed that the compartment should have been used to hide money, but there wasn't any money now. Madame Du heaved a sigh of relief and handed the handkerchief to Shao Qingyuan. She said, This is the handkerchief you wore back then. This material should be good. I'd never seen it before, nor did I know it. You're knowledgeable. You might be able to find your family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1041. Shao as in Shao Qingyuan took it and touched it. It was indeed a comfortable material, even better than what they were wearing. He handed the handkerchief to Yundong. Yundong had helped Shinsidian sell embroidery in the cloth shop in the prefectural city a few times and had seen a lot of materials, but this, she had never seen it before. Could it be that this material didn't even exist in the prefectural city? Yundong flipped her hand and found a word embroidered on the corner of the handkerchief, Shao. Shao as in Shao Qingyuan. She frowned slightly. Yundong remembered that the deceased wife of the Tao family was surnamed Shao. As expected, did this handkerchief belong to the Tao family? Yundong was a little disappointed, but she still carefully put away the handkerchief. When Madame Du saw this, she couldn't help but say a few more words. When you were carried back, the clothes you were wearing were very exquisite. One look and you could tell that you were a child from a rich family. Your complexion is also good. Your original family shouldn't have to worry about food and clothes. Yundong thought for a moment and asked, Then did Brother Shao have anything else on him? Was he dressed neatly at that time? If Old Li had changed Shao Qingyuan and third young Master Tao's clothes in a hurry, their clothes might have been a little messy. It had happened too long ago. Madame Du frowned and thought for a moment before continuing. It's not very messy, but you should know that my father-in-law came back in a hurry with a child. He definitely wasn't too neat. As for whether there's anything else on him, it should be gone. Yundong sighed inwardly. It seemed that there were not many clues. All right, we understand. Thank you for giving us the handkerchief. It's getting late, so we'll go back first. Madame Du opened her mouth, wanting to let them stay a little longer. However, she knew that this was unrealistic, so she nodded. I'll send you out. She opened the door again. There was a table outside. Because Li Dunzi was sitting there, no one dared to eavesdrop openly. However, the people present still pricked up their ears, trying their best to hear what they had said inside. Unfortunately, their voice was so soft that there was no sound at all. Yundong looked around but did not see eldest Li and his family. It made sense. Ever since the last time they caused a scene, the second and third branches of the Li family felt that the first branch was too vicious and had cut ties. Besides, Li Dunzi had invited Shao Qingyuan over this time. Why would he let the people from the main branch cause trouble for him? Yundong shook her head and walked out of the central room. Liang walked over and asked, "You're going back now?" "Yes, it's getting late. I have to go back and prepare." "Prepare?" Liang immediately reacted and his eyes lit up. "Is the vaccination starting tomorrow?" "Yes." Shao Qingyuan nodded. "Uncle Chen, you should let everyone know, but this place—" Yes. The village has already tidied up the ancestral hall. When the time comes, we'll inoculate everyone in the ancestral hall. Our ancestors will bless us. Shao Qingyuan was relieved to hear that. He told Liang about other matters before leaving the Li family with Yundong. As soon as he left, the people who were eating stood up and wanted to follow him out. "Why did you leave just like that?" "I wanted to ask about the vaccination." "Did he come back just to attend the wedding banquet? Doesn't it mean we really have to wait 3 months?" Seeing that someone was about to leave, Liang hurriedly coughed and said, "Everyone, quieten down. I have something to say." Everyone could not help but turn to look at him. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1042. She's the only one unhappy, Liang said. Qingyuan said that our Yongfu village will start the vaccination tomorrow. The venue is over at the ancestral hall. Everyone can queue up tomorrow morning. Everyone was overjoyed when they heard that. "What time is it? Will they really inoculate us?" Liang nodded. "Tomorrow at 5 o'clock. After a pause, he continued, "I know that everyone has children and relatives in other villages. They also want to be vaccinated early. However, there's a limit to manpower. They have to keep a close eye on our village first, so don't tell the people from other villages to come over for the time being. Even if they come, they definitely won't be able to be registered." Everyone was a little disappointed when they heard that, but on second thought, it made sense. There were still hundreds of people in their village, and Shao Qingyuan had to return to the prefectural city. If people from other villages or even county towns came, the local villagers would have to queue at the back. Liang continued, "There's one more thing I have to make clear to everyone. Qingyuan is alone. He can't inoculate everyone. Therefore, Dr. Xiong and the others are going to do it. They were all personally taught by Qingyuan." Someone was immediately dissatisfied. "Why can't he do it himself? If something happens to us?" Liang suddenly looked at that person and his voice turned cold. "Then tell me, who is he going to inoculate? You or me? We've already been inoculated. Won't the others have to let him come? Can he handle it alone?" Even in the prefectural city, he let those doctors inoculate the commoners. Why is it that when he comes to our Yongfu village, he has to work hard? This inoculation doesn't cost a single cent. If you're unwilling, go to the county city and queue up. You're pushing your luck. The person immediately shrunk his neck and did not dare to make a sound. The others naturally did not dare to say anything else. On second thought, Liang was right. In the past, Shao Qingyuan would have ignored them. Not only did he come back personally, but he also stayed in Yongfu village for a few more days. With him around, they felt much more at ease. Seeing that there was no dissent, Liang heaved a sigh of relief and nodded. "After you're done with the wedding banquet, tell the neighbors who didn't come to eat next door to come to the ancestral hall tomorrow morning. Do you hear me?" "Got it, village chief." After receiving the accurate news, everyone was relieved and finally began to enjoy the wine, meat, and dishes in peace. The only unhappy one was probably Xiao, the bride who had finished listening to the entire process in the new room. Were these two crazy? They came to show off on their wedding day. Now, as soon as they left, these people went back to rest early after the wedding banquet. They didn't even make a fuss in the bridal chamber. Her marriage was not lively at all. However, she was the only one who was dissatisfied with the Li family's second branch. The others felt that it was quite good. Thinking that they were going to be vaccinated tomorrow, they all rested early. Therefore, early the next morning, when Xiao was about to get up and serve tea to her in-laws, there was no one at home. Everyone had run to the ancestral hall early to wait. The sky had just lit up, but the entrance of the ancestral hall was already filled with people. Yundong and Shao Qingyuan were not in a hurry. Although they woke up early, they sat in the reception hall and finished their breakfast. Then they went to Yunchu's room to see him and Yuanji. They had gone to the Li family late yesterday. Firstly, they really wanted to wait for the Li family to finish paying their respects. Secondly, they wanted to inoculate Yunchu and Yuanji first. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1043. Untrusted Ah Zhu. Yundong had already applied for leave for Yunchu and the rest. They might not be able to go to school for the next few days. However, Qingyuan was not in the school now. There were a few students in the school who had already lined up at the county office. After the vaccination, they rested at home. Therefore, even if Yunchu and the others went to school, most of the students were only learning on their own. The two little guys were still asleep and seemed to be in good condition. Yundong was slightly relieved and quietly left the room. Then, the two of them walked towards the ancestral hall. Liang had already opened the door to the ancestral hall. The first to enter were Ah Zhu, Dr. Xiong, and the old doctor from the county medicine shop. The three of them were the ones who would inoculate the locals of Yongfu village. As soon as they entered, the villagers began to line up under Liang's arrangements. However, these people were in dispute as to whose side they should be on. Most of them wanted to line up with Dr. Xiong. After all, Ah Zhu was just a servant in their eyes. He was also young, so how could he know about vaccination? Although the old doctor had already vaccinated a lot of people in the county city, he could not compare to Dr. Xiong, who had come from the prefectural city. However, Dr. Xiong had a bad temper. When he saw the long line in front of him, he immediately slammed the table and glared. "Why are you all lined up here? Are you trying to tire me out?" The people at the back of the line trembled. Their gazes were a little erratic and afraid. Some people quietly moved to the old doctor's side. Unexpectedly, when they looked up, the Zhang family, Liang's family, and the He family at the front were lined up on Ah Zhu's side. The Zhang and Chen families had a good relationship with Yundong and Shao Qingyuan. The He family was also a shrewd family. When Yundong was building the road previously, they had changed their home base at the foot of the mountain with the village. Their three families actually went to Ah Zhu's side. Could it be that he was the one with the best skills among the three of them? Everyone was bewildered. Some people could not help but go over. However, some people were still determined to stand on Dr. Xiong's side. However, this way, the number of people in the team in front of the three of them was about right. Tong Ping had also come over to help early in the morning. He had sent everyone a note with words written on it. "There are too many people. It's difficult to wait here. Everyone take this note. You can come back when your name is called. There's no need to wait here. It's fine to go out for a walk and come back later." Everyone held the note in their hands, but no one moved. Although he said that, what if they missed it? Besides, it was just waiting. It was not like they had not waited before. It did not matter. Therefore, even though the queue had already reached the outside of the ancestral hall, no one moved. At most, they would sit on the ground when they were tired of standing. As for food, there were also people at home who had survived smallpox when they were young. They did not need to be vaccinated, so they could help take care of it. Shao Qingyuan and Yundong were the last to arrive. When they entered, They saw such a lively scene. When the villagers saw him, they immediately stood up and greeted, "Qingyuan, you're here. Hurry up and go in. It's already started inside." Shao Qingyuan nodded and led Gu Yundong into the ancestral hall. The moment the people inside saw him, their hearts instantly calmed down. Gu Yundong whispered, "See that? Your role is to calm everyone down." Shao Qingyuan asked, "When are we leaving? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1044. Ah Zhu and the others changed their names. Gu Yundong looked up at the sky and replied, "About an hour." The news that they had returned to Yongfu village and were vaccinating the villagers today had probably spread. It was fine if the people from the neighboring village found out. With Chen Liang around, no one would make a fuss and insist that Shao Qingyuan vaccinate them. However, that might not be the case for the people in the county. There were many powerful people. They had probably sent people to find out the news of Yongfu village at any time. Shao Qingyuan had appeared in the Li family yesterday and announced the news a little late. Even if the servants sent to find out the news wanted to return to the city to report, the city gate would be closed. They could only wait for the city gate to open this morning before informing their masters. Therefore, even if the people from the county wanted to come to Yongfu village, it would probably take at least an hour. Therefore, Shao Qingyuan and the others were still in the mood to watch Ah Zhu and the others receive the vaccination. Ah Zhu was indeed skilled and was inoculating the He family. He Shanchuan stood beside his wife. When he saw Ah Zhu holding the dagger, he was immediately a little nervous. "Dr. Ah Zhu, my wife is afraid of pain." Later, "Ah Zhu. Dr. Ah Zhu?" He raised his head with a serious expression and said proudly, "My name is Shao Quan now. You can call me Dr. Shao." He Shanchuan nodded repeatedly. "All right, Dr. Shao." Ah Zhu was instantly delighted. He was Dr. Shao. How nice was that? Someone beside him asked curiously, "Why are you called Shao Quan?" "Not only am I called Shao Quan, but we've all changed our names. The four of us will be Wan, Wu, Shuang and Quanla. Fully capable of literal and martial arts. Remember, don't call me the wrong name next time." Gu Yundong silently covered her face. "Look at how smug you are." The four of them had come up with the names themselves. A few days ago, after Shao Qingyuan and Amao came out of the Million Gold Pavilion, the first thing Go and the others did was talk about changing their names. They originally wanted to call themselves Zhong, Shao, Ren, and Yiwan, but Dai Zhong, Dai Yi, and the rest of Dai Wenhuo's subordinates had got those names. Therefore, after a few days of careful deliberation and racking his brains, he finally thought of the words Wen Wu Shuang Quan. They felt that these words were especially good, especially impressive, and suited Shao Qingyuan's image. Gu Yundong was speechless for a long time. "All right, as long as you're happy." However, Gu Yundong and the others were already used to calling Ah Zhu, so they could not change it for a while. Ah Zhu patiently reminded them, as if he liked this new name very much. When the people beside them heard that Ah Zhu and the others had changed their names, they said regretfully, "Why did you change your names? Ah Zhu and Ah Shu are so nice to listen to. They're easy to remember and have special characteristics. We country bumpkins like to take cheap names. It's easy to raise them." "Ah Zhu? No, I want to be called Shao Quan. Shao Quan. Remember." Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan looked at each other and laughed. The cowpox vaccination went very smoothly. After it was done, Shao Qingyuan told them some things to take note of and asked them to go back and rest. After saying it a few more times, everyone remembered it. Fortunately, it was not time for farming yet. 2 days of rest could still be spared. An hour later, someone ran over in a hurry and said loudly, "Oh no! There are a few carriages at the entrance of our village. They seem to be from the county. Are they here to look for Shao Qingyuan and take him away? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1045. Go hide. The villagers in the ancestral hall were shocked. "They're really here? Why are they here so quickly?" Someone reacted quickly and said to Shao Qingyuan, "Qingyuan, Quickly hide. Yes, yes, yes. Go and hide. If they come and can't find you, they will definitely go back. Well, say that you've already left and returned to the prefectural city. Everyone was talking at once and coming up with ideas. They were worried that Qingyuan would be taken away by those powerful people from the county. Without this man supervising the situation, they could not help but panic. Qingyuan and Yundong looked at each other. It was as they had expected it. Liang also came over to persuade them. Stay away for now. Don't worry. They're here for you. If they can't see you, they can't do anything. All right, I'll leave this to Uncle Chen. Qingyuan nodded at Ah Zhu and left the ancestral hall with Yundong. The people from the county city came from the main road in carriages, but Qingyuan and the others left through the center of the village. When they arrived at the entrance of the village, they saw Father Tong waiting there with the carriage. As soon as the two of them got into the carriage, they bypassed the main road and took a small path to the county city. Not long after they left, those carriages stopped at the foot of the mountain. When they heard that everyone in the village was at the ancestral hall, they quickly walked towards it. However, when they all arrived, they only saw a few doctors inoculating the villagers. Qingyuan was not around at all. Not only was he not around, but someone also ran over and said that they had just left from another path. Everyone cursed in unison and looked at the people from Yongfu village. After leaving a few people to continue keeping an eye on the situation, they left angrily. The villagers were speechless. They were all prepared to argue and chase them away with hoes and shovels. In the end, they left. There was no sense of accomplishment. Why didn't they persevere? Wasn't there any sincerity? However, after they left, Liang heaved a sigh of relief and continued to organize everyone for the vaccination. The Li family's eldest branch came at this time. Ever since they found out that Qingyuan had seen the emperor and made a great contribution, they had been extremely nervous. They wanted to go to the county city to queue for registration, but they were late. The county office's document said that they would have to wait at least until 6 months later. 6 months later? How could that be? Therefore, even though they were extremely afraid, it was rare for the village to start cowpox vaccination. They had been holed up at home for half a day. When they heard that Qingyuan had left, they finally braced themselves and came out. They looked at the villagers in front of them who were being vaccinated. There were a total of 3 teams. They definitely did not dare to line up with Ah Zhu's team. If he did anything during the vaccination, their family might lose their lives. Dr. Xiong had a bad temper, so it wouldn't do either. Therefore, in the end, the Li family's eldest branch was lined up with the old doctor. The villager in front of them immediately frowned. This person happened to be at odds with the Li family's eldest branch. He immediately mocked. You still have the cheek to come. Why? Do you think no one knows that you've persecuted him in the past when Qingyuan isn't around? None of your business. Hey, you want to fight? Seeing that the two of them were about to fight, Liang heard the commotion and rushed over. When he saw the Li family, he could not help but frown. Disgust flashed across his face. All right, stop arguing. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1046. This troublesome thing Liang did not chase them away. He was the village chief and the entire village had to be vaccinated. It was impossible for him to leave them behind. Besides, it wouldn't be good for Qingyuan if word got out. What if someone in the Li family got smallpox? What would outsiders think of Qingyuan? They would say that he was the one who invented the cowpox vaccination method. But in the end, someone in his village died from this illness. It was just vaccination. There was nothing to do with it. If you want the vaccination, be quiet. If anything happens, you'll be the ones to suffer. The people from the Li family's main branch immediately did not dare to speak. They could only line up resentfully and endure the pointing fingers of the other villagers. The subsequent inoculations went very smoothly. Even though the people from the neighboring village came after hearing the news, they knew that it was impossible for them to cut in line. They could only be envious. At that moment, Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan had already arrived at Fengkai County. As soon as the two of them arrived at the county city, they went straight to the Liu residence. Liuan was already waiting at the entrance. When he saw them, he immediately welcomed them. "Young Master Shao, Miss Gu, you're finally here. Our young master has been waiting for you at the door." With that, he welcomed the two of them inside. As soon as they turned around the courtyard, Liu Wei, who had heard the commotion, ran over and suddenly stopped in front of them. Then, with a bright smile on his face, he reached out and patted Shao Qingyuan's shoulder. "Brother, you're very promising now. I'm proud to have a brother like you. I'm especially proud. I'm extremely proud." As he spoke, he patted Shao Qingyuan's shoulder hard. However, it didn't look like he was proud. Instead, it looked like he wanted to slap Shao Qingyuan into the ground. Shao Qingyuan frowned and tilted his body slightly to avoid the third slap. Liu Wei could not stop in time and fell straight forward. Fortunately, Liuan reacted very quickly. "Young master, be careful." He barely caught her. After Liu Wei steadied himself, he turned around and was about to be displeased when he met Gu Yundong's angry eyes. "Do you have a deep hatred for my brother Shao? You're so strong that you're about to slap a piece of flesh off my shoulder." Liu Wei immediately shrunk his neck guiltily, but he still refuted firmly. "Nonsense. I'm expressing my admiration for brother Shao. It's unstoppable. Besides, I'm afraid that my brother Shao won't believe such an important matter. That's why I patted him awake and told him that this isn't a dream. This is real. It's worth being happy and excited. Don't try to sow discord between me and brother Shao." Gu Yundong was speechless. If you had kept that jealous, resentful expression on your face when you said this, it might have been more convincing. "Actor Liu, your acting skills have deteriorated." As he spoke, Old Master Liu also walked out with a smile. "Young Shao Gu girl, you're here. This time you've caused quite a commotion. Not bad, not bad. I knew that you would definitely have a great future. Unlike our family's wastrel who only knows how to eat, drink, and have fun. It's fine if he can't inherit the business, but he just has to be disobedient. What a troublesome thing." Gu Yundong glanced at Liu Wei. She finally understood why Liu Wei was so resentful towards brother Shao. "Old Master Liu, if you want to educate your son, then educate your son. Don't compare him to someone else." As expected, as soon as Old Master Liu finished speaking, Liu Wei walked forward angrily. Old Master Liu snorted. "You still have the cheek to lose your temper. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1047. Liu Wei Is Engaged. The group of them entered the central room. Liu Yi bowed obediently and was especially polite. Gu Yundong was silent for a moment. Then, she looked at Liu Wei, who was sitting at the side and eating an apple. This guy was indeed a troublesome thing. Shao Qingyuan didn't even look at him. He said to Old Master Liu, "Let's begin." He came here today to inoculate the Liu family. Liu Wei had smallpox when he was young, so there was no need to take it. However, Liu Yi still needed it, and so did the others in the Liu residence. Seeing that he didn't even drink the tea, Old Master Liu hurriedly said, "You just came. You should rest for a while." "No, let's do it now. We still have to go back early." "All right, follow me. The room is ready." Old Master Liu brought the few of them to the hall at the back. Shao Qingyuan was holding a medical box in his hand. Liu Wei looked at it and clicked his tongue. "He truly looks like a doctor." Gu Yundong glanced at him. Liu Wei immediately went to her side and said, "Look, brother Shao used to be a hunter, then a merchant. Now he's actually a doctor. What do you think he will be in the future?" "Whatever he will be, it's better than a prodigal son like you." Liu Wei was speechless. Could they still be friends? Didn't he just pat Shao Qingyuan's shoulder twice? A woman who bore grudges. They should be cut off from each other. Shao Qingyuan inoculated Liu Yi, and the others didn't need to wait in the room. They were outside. Old Master Liu took the opportunity to ask Gu Yundong, "Last time, your father got the county championship. I originally wanted to go to your house to congratulate you, but you went straight to the prefectural city. The prefectural examination is about to begin. Are you confident in getting the prefectural championship? Yundong coughed lightly. Well, I don't know either. It's not important whether he can get the championship or not. My father missed the imperial examination back then. Now, we can treat it as fulfilling a dream. We don't want to give him too much pressure. His happiness is the most important. He'll naturally be happy if he can get the championship. If he doesn't get in, treat it as training. Old Master Liu was stunned. He had never heard of such a thing. However, on second thought, it made sense. Although the Gu family was still poor, Yundong had refined white sugar and given the imperial court such great benefits. It was said that the emperor had sold the white sugar to other countries and earned a lot of money. The national treasury was full. With this contribution, if she had the heart, she could even get the emperor to reward her with a county lord position. Furthermore, Qingyuan had developed a medical procedure for the vaccination of smallpox. It was also a huge matter that benefited the country and the people. Just these two things alone made the Shao family and the Gu family look good in front of the emperor. If Gu Dajiang were to get into the capital in the future, regardless of his ranking, he would attract the attention of high-ranking officials and nobles. When Old Master Liu thought of this, he stopped asking about this matter and thought about her marriage with Shao Qingyuan. Isn't it time to put your wedding on the agenda? After my father finishes the examination. Yundong was still a little embarrassed. Old Master Liu was overjoyed. Then it will be soon. In that case, I should prepare a big gift now. It's good, at least it's faster than our Liu Wei. Yundong was about to nod, but then she was stunned. What he meant was, she suddenly looked at Liu Wei, who was eavesdropping on their conversation. You're engaged? When did this happen? Why didn't she know? Wasn't he hiding in the prefectural city to avoid Old Master Liu's blind date? Now he finally surrendered? Old Master Liu laughed. Yes, it's finally settled. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1048. Let Yundong accompany me. Yundong was about to ask which family it was when he saw a servant coming to look for Old Master Liu. Old Master Liu could only instruct Liu Wei to entertain Yundong before he left in a hurry. Only the two of them were left in the central room. Yundong suddenly looked at him with a burning gaze. Liu Wei felt uncomfortable under her stare. After a long while, he waved his hand and said, all right, I'll tell you. I'm indeed engaged. It happened a month ago. My father set it up for me. Which girl? Miss Zhang. Liu Wei was very dissatisfied. I don't know what medicine my father took, but he insisted on finding me a fierce wife. You don't know, but that Miss Zhang is especially fierce. I'm afraid of her. Yundong was speechless. There was nothing she could do about this. Liu Wei looked like he had nothing left to live for. My father doesn't listen to me at all. He insists that I'm jumpy and that I have to find a wife who can control me. Then how can I live in the future? Yundong wanted to laugh, but she tried her best to restrain herself. Forget it. He was already in such a miserable state. It was not good to laugh at him. However, they were still friends, so she asked a few more questions. Have you seen Miss Zhang? Do you have any feelings for her? I've seen her. She looks all right, but she's fierce and domineering. I don't like this at all. Yundong frowned. But this was how it was like for a man and a woman to get married these days. Since they were already engaged, it meant that Old Master Liu had made up his mind. However, for Old Master Liu to take a fancy to her, that girl must have something outstanding that he admired. However, Liu Wei was very against this Miss Zhang now. Then, just as Yundong was thinking about it, Old Master Liu rushed back. Unexpectedly, the first thing he said when he returned was to Liu Wei. A servant came to the Zhang family and said that they had obtained a wild deer. Young Master Zhang has held a banquet and invited you to join in the fun. What's there to hold a banquet for? I don't even want to eat anymore. I'm not going. Liu Wei refused without hesitation. Old Master Liu was furious. Who asked you to eat deer? I asked you to meet Miss Zhang. All the more reason for me not to go. I don't like her. Old Master Liu looked around, looking like he was looking for a stick. Seeing this, Liu Wei hurriedly jumped up and hid behind Yundong. Father, you don't be rash. You're really an idiot. If you don't like her, you should meet her even more often. Wouldn't you like her if you talked to her more often? Let me tell you, I'm already tolerant enough of you. I even let the two of you cultivate your relationship before marriage. Don't be ungrateful. As he spoke, old Master Liu's breathing began to quicken. His face turned red, and he looked like he was about to faint. Liu Wei panicked and quickly said, Okay. He'll go, all right? However, he made a request. Let Yundong accompany me. Yundong. No, I'm not here. You can't see me. Old Master Liu frowned. Liu Wei said anxiously, Father, didn't you say that she has good taste? Then let her go to the Zhang family with me and see if that Miss Zhang is good. If she agrees, I'll marry her and won't make a fuss in the future. Okay? Yundong? What does it have to do with me? Am I wrong to have good taste? I'm just a bystander. Liu Wei, you fool. Can't you tell that your father is acting? However, old Master Liu's eyes lit up. He nodded and said, All right. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1049. It's too difficult, what's all right? Did you ask for my opinion? Do you think I don't exist? Yundong smiled. I don't think it's appropriate. I'm an unmarried woman. If I follow Liu Wei to the Zhang family to look for Miss Zhang, others will think that I have something to do with Liu Wei. If Miss Zhang misunderstands something and thinks that I deliberately came to provoke her, wouldn't I have done something bad out of kindness? Unexpectedly, old Master Liu waved his hand and said, It's fine. I'll let Yenner accompany you. When the time comes, just say that you're Yenner's friend and Yenner brought you there. Liu Yen was Liu Wei's elder sister. Yundong had met her before. She was a good person. Probably because she was the eldest child of the Liu family. She was decisive and completely different from Liu Wei. Yundong sometimes felt that it was probably because he had such an elder sister that Liu Wei was pampered to the point of being heartless and silly. But even if there was Liu Yen, Yundong did not want to go. Her expression was serious as she rejected him firmly. I don't think it's appropriate. What if Miss Zhang doesn't believe me? Besides, I still have to wait for Brother Shao. Before she could finish speaking, old Master Liu clutched his chest and looked like he was about to die. Yundong's lips twitched. Uncle Liu, I'm not a fool like Liu Wei. You said that I have good taste. Can't I tell that you're acting? Liu Wei supported old Master Liu. Father, are you all right? Don't worry. Girl is kind-hearted. She will agree. Don't faint. Yundong was speechless. She wanted to ask Shao Qingyuan to leave and not care about the Liu family. Old Master Liu panted heavily and said with great effort, Yundong, you're Liu Wei's friend. Can you bear to see his marriage not go well and that he and his wife won't be able to grow old together? I can bear to. As long as you go and take a look, Liu Wei will wait for the wedding in peace. You know his temper. What if he suddenly runs away on the day of the wedding? Then my Liu family and the Zhang family will become enemies. Now, as long as you go and take a look and know that Miss Zhang is a good person, Liu Wei won't be so unhappy. He'll leave it to you. I'm already so old. It's too difficult for me to have a grandson. Just do me a small favor on account of uncle taking care of you. Yundong looked up at the sky and sighed in his heart. He really owed them. Since old Master Liu had said so, her conscience would hurt to death if she did not go. Okay. I'll go. Okay? Old Master Liu immediately stood up and nodded with a serious expression. Thank you. Yundong was already numb when she saw how energetic he was. Old Master Liu then turned to Liu Wei and said, When you pass by the Sun family later, pick up your sister and go to the Zhang family together. The Sun family was the family that Liu Yan's husband belonged to. Liu Wei nodded. I understand, father. Yundong rubbed her temples and entered the house to inform Shao Qingyuan. Shao Qingyuan was silent for a moment. All right, it's boring for you to wait outside. Just go take a look. Wait for me to come back. Okay. Yundong walked out of the door again. Liu Wei was ready. The two of them got into the carriage outside. Since they were going to pick Liu Yan up, the carriage had to take a detour. Along the way, Yundong did not want to talk to Liu Wei. The latter did not care. However, when they passed by Jinxiu restaurant, Liu Wei suddenly exclaimed, if you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1050. The third young master of the Tao family, Tao Yengu Yundong glanced at him and pretended not to hear him. Don't think that I don't know that he deliberately made a sound to attract my attention. However, she didn't expect that Liu Wei didn't look at her and asked curiously, why are they together? Yundong lifted the curtain and looked out. She happened to see two people about to enter Jinxiu restaurant. She didn't know one of them, but wasn't the other Peng Zhongfei? It had been a long time since he had seen this person. He looked like he had been doing well recently and was glowing. Yundong asked casually, do you know the person beside Peng Zhongfei? Liu Wei nodded. Yes, he's the third young master that the Tao family found at the end of last year. Yundong froze. Who are you talking about? Third young master Tao Yen. Yundong suddenly shouted, stop the carriage. The sound was urgent and sharp. Luan, who was driving the carriage outside, hurriedly pulled the reins. Because of inertia, Liu Wei couldn't sit properly and almost fell out of the carriage. He rubbed his aching head and asked angrily, what are you doing? You're so shocked. However, Yundong said to him, go to the Zhang family yourself. I have something on, so I won't be going for now. After saying that, she didn't care about Liu Wei's reaction and directly jumped off the carriage. Liu Wei was stunned and hurriedly got off the carriage. When he looked up, he saw Yundong rushing towards Jinxiu restaurant. He hurriedly asked Luan to drive the carriage to the side to rest, then quickly caught up with Yundong. The two of them entered Jinxiu restaurant one after another. Liu Wei had just caught up with her and happened to hear her asking the shopkeeper, which room are young Master Peng and young Master Tao in? The shopkeeper was stunned. He naturally knew Yundong, but, fortunately, Liu Wei came over immediately. Hurry up and tell her. Which room are they in? The shopkeeper immediately replied, in the bamboo room. Thank you, Yundong said and quickly walked upstairs. After going up 2 flights of stairs, she saw that Liu Wei had also come over. She immediately frowned and said, why are you following me? I have something urgent to do. You can go to the Zhang family first. As for seeing Miss Zhang, you can wait for an opportunity next time. Hey, the Zhang family's matter is not urgent. What are you busy with? Liu Wei was excited. Is it related to Peng Zhongfei and Tao Yen? They'll help you. I can beat or trick anyone. As he spoke, he even started to roll up his sleeves. Yundong's mouth twitched. No, I just have something to ask. Hurry up and leave. Liu Wei raised his neck and refused resolutely. I promised father that we would go out and return together. How can I leave you here alone? If it weren't for the glow of gossip on your face, I would have believed your righteousness. Yundong had no choice. She could not be bothered to argue with him and simply let him be. She turned around and walked upstairs again. Liu Wei was satisfied. He walked quickly and even led the way. The bamboo room is over here. Please. When he reached the door, he raised his hand and knocked. Peng Zhongfei's voice came from inside. Who is it? Me. Liu Wei's voice was very recognizable. Peng Zhongfei immediately recognized it. He immediately smiled and opened the door. Young Master Liu, it's been a long time. Come in, come in. It's just nice. Halfway through his sentence, he saw Yundong standing behind Liu Wei. The smile on Peng Zhongfei's face froze instantly. He looked at her in disbelief. You. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1051. Almost a ghost. Yundong was very unhappy. Why did he look as if he had seen a ghost? Wasn't she beautiful? Wasn't she at the prime of her youth? What a bad taste. Peng Zhongfei quickly composed himself and looked at Gu Yundong with a dry smile. Miss Gu, so it's you. He smiled brightly on the surface, but he was crying inside. Every time he saw Gu Yundong, he would be unlucky. It was not easy for him to recover. Over the past year, his family had not been in much trouble. His days were colorful, but she suddenly appeared. He felt like something was going to happen again. Peng Zhongfei looked at Liu Wei with dissatisfaction and asked angrily, "What are you doing here?" Liu Wei. "Hey, why did your expression change so quickly? Wasn't he just inviting me in to eat, drink, and be lively? What the hell?" The three of them were staring at each other outside the door when Tao Yan, who had been waiting in the room, walked out. He naturally knew Liu Wei and immediately greeted him. "So it's young Master Liu. Are you also here to eat? It's rare to meet you. Do you want to eat together?" But in the blink of an eye, he saw Gu Yundong and immediately felt a little embarrassed. He did not know Gu Yundong. When he saw her standing with Liu Wei, he thought that she was his relative or cousin. If it was a family gathering, it would be difficult for him to invite them. However, Liu Wei didn't feel embarrassed. He immediately pushed Peng Zhongfei away. Okay, but let me make it clear first. Although this is my restaurant, you have to treat us to this meal." Peng Zhongfei's mouth twitched and he looked at Gu Yundong. The latter also walked in very naturally without even being polite. Peng Zhongfei only felt a toothache. He could only sigh secretly and turn around to close the door of the room. There was only one pot of tea on the table in the room. Perhaps it was because Gu Yundong and the others had arrived quickly that Peng Zhongfei and the rest did not have time to order the dishes. Tao Yan was stunned, especially when he saw Gu Yundong enter. It was Liu Wei who introduced them. "This is Gu Yundong, my sister." Gu Yundong glanced at him. "You really know how to take advantage of others." Tao Yan's eyes widened in surprise when he heard Gu Yundong's name. This was that girl from the Gu family. He quickly cupped his hands and said, "I've heard a lot about you, but I haven't had the chance to meet you. I didn't expect to meet you today." This was the first time Gu Yundong had seen Tao Yan. This person was a little short, at least shorter than the other two young masters of the Tao family. However, this guy's appearance was the one that resembled Master Tao the most. At a rough glance, they were at least 50 to 60% similar. He seemed to have a good personality. Moreover, he had just been recognized by the Tao family not long ago. But he could become friends with a famous profligate son like Peng Zhongfei, who looked down on others and thought that he was the best playboy in the county city. He was quite thoughtful to drink tea and eat calmly. Seeing her, Tao Yan's attitude was also very respectful and polite. He didn't ignore her just because she was a woman. Just a glance was enough to make people have a good impression of him. Gu Yundong smiled and nodded. "I didn't expect third young master Tao to know about me. It's my honor." "Haha. Miss Gu is too humble. Previously, after I was recognized by the Tao family, there was a welcome banquet at home. My elder brother even said that he would invite young Master Shao and Miss Gu over. I didn't expect the two of you to not be in the county city. That's why I didn't have the privilege to see you." Gu Yundong was surprised, but seeing that he was not afraid to mention his background, it was convenient for her. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1052. How did you find her? Then I can only congratulate third young Master Tao for acknowledging his ancestors and reuniting the family. Gu Yundong held a cup of tea and toasted him. Tao Yan quickly picked up his teacup and drank it. "Thank you. Speaking of which, third young master has come to the end of his suffering. His good days are all in the future." Gu Yundong pretended to speak casually. "By the way, did you catch the human trafficker who took third young master away? In my opinion, such a person is the most detestable. He specializes in doing such heartless things. He destroys other people's lives and families. I hate such people the most. Previously, I encountered a human trafficker who carried a child away in broad daylight. If that person was not sneaky and I hadn't stopped him on the spot when I realized that something was wrong, the child's family would probably be heartbroken. The Tao family announced to the public that Tao Yan had been kidnapped when he was young. Although many people knew that this was not the case and Gu Yundong also knew the inside story, she still had to pretend. She had an indignant expression on her face. Tao Yan didn't think much of it and only said, "How can I catch him? After that human trafficker sold me, I don't know where he went." When Gu Yundong heard this, she sighed regretfully. Then, she asked curiously, "Then how did third young master know about your background back then? I heard that you were only about a year old when you were taken away." Coincidentally, when I was in my teens, I accidentally heard my adoptive parents arguing. Only then did I know that I wasn't their biological son. No wonder they weren't friendly to me and beat and scolded me as if we were enemies. However, I also knew that if I asked them directly, they definitely wouldn't tell me, so I secretly investigated. Gu Yundong's interest was immediately piqued. "How did you investigate? Could it be that there were some clues back then?" "Yes, when they were arguing back then, I heard them say that the clothes I was wearing seemed to be made of good material and were not cheap, so they took the clothes directly to the pawn shop. Although there were not many clues, there were at least some. I followed this lead and searched for a long time before I finally found that pawn shop. Fortunately, the clothes were worn by children and no one had bought them. In the end, the pawn shop owner treated it as doing a good deed and donated them to the charity hall. I found the clothes at the charity hall. The charity hall was filled with homeless orphans. Tao Yan's clothes were good, so the charity hall naturally took good care of them. This allowed Tao Yan's search to go further. If the pawn shop had sold it to anyone else, they would have worn it and thrown it away. Gu Yundong was secretly shocked. According to Tao Yan, when he was carried away, he was wearing the clothes of the Tao family. There was no need to change clothes with Shao Qingyuan. The Tao family changed the story of Tao Yan being abandoned to being trafficked because the Tao family wanted to cover up the scandal. There was no need for Tao Yan to lie when he said that he had found the Tao family. Gu Yundong felt that her and Shao Qingyuan's thoughts might have been too complicated from the beginning. Perhaps old Li had nothing to do with the third young master of the Tao family being taken away. Perhaps he only knew the inside story of the third young master of the Tao family being abandoned and directly pushed this matter to Shao Qingyuan. Yes, that must be it. Before he died, he tricked Shao Qingyuan again and deliberately said this to confuse him so that he could not find his real family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1053. The handkerchief is Shao Qingyuan's. The more Gu Yundong thought about it, the clearer the clues in her mind became. If things went back to the beginning and all the clues related to the Tao family were removed, then the only thing that could prove Shao Qingyuan's background might be the handkerchief that Li Dunzi and his wife had hidden. The handkerchief belonged to Shao Qingyuan, and it was given to him by his family. But why did old Li do this? It could only mean that he had a grudge against Shao Qingyuan, or against Shao Qingyuan's family. Gu Yundong's eyes grew brighter and brighter. They could start from there. At this moment, her mood suddenly brightened. I was lucky. When I found half of it, Big Brother happened to be looking for me. Tao Yan continued. Only then did I know my background. After confirming it, I returned to the Tao family. Gu Yundong came back to her senses and nodded. Third young master, good things come after hardships. You will definitely have good fortune in the future. Ha ha ha. Thank you for your nice words. Tao Yan smiled. My brother is indeed very good to me. Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. Yes, only your brother treats you well. The others don't look too good. The corners of Peng Zhongfei's mouth twitched. He wanted to speak, but the two of them had been talking back and forth since they sat down. He couldn't even find a chance to interrupt. Wasn't this the first time the two of them met? How could they have so much to talk about? He endured it and then glanced at Liu Wei. He did not expect this kid to be drinking tea rather enjoyably. Was there a mistake? Even if this was the best tea in Jinsho restaurant, there was no need for this guy to be like this, right? This is your restaurant. How dare you take advantage of me when you want to drink high-quality tea? Intolerable. Peng Zhongfei raised his leg under the table and kicked him hard. Pfft. Cough, cough. Liu Wei was careless and the tea directly poured into his nose. He instantly exploded. Why did you kick me? Peng Zhongfei was speechless. He had used too much strength. He touched his nose guiltily and met the gazes of the other two. He said, I heard them chatting. When I got excited, I bumped into you. Why are you so excited? You're wasting my tea. So your point is this? Yundong looked at Peng Zhongfei with a faint smile. It's my fault. I was too curious about third young master's strange background, so I asked a few more questions. By the way, it's rare to meet young Master Peng. I happen to have something to ask you for help with. Peng Zhongfei widened his eyes. You, what do you need my help with? He was so nervous that he stuttered. Why did she need his help? The first 2 times she had looked for him, something had happened to him. Could she not look for him this time? Peng Zhongfei was filled with regret. If he had known earlier, he would not have kicked so hard. Wouldn't it have been better to be a quiet quail? If Liu Wei wanted to drink tea, he could drink tea. It was not much money. Now, Yundong had finally noticed him. Peng Zhongfei was extremely bitter in his heart, but in front of his 2 friends, he still controlled his facial expression very firmly and said seriously, What help? Tell me. No matter what, we're friends. It'll definitely help if I can. But you know that my ability is limited. I'm just a young master who eats and drinks. Don't blame me if I can't help you. Yundong was speechless. Am I that scary? I won't let you climb a mountain of swords or go through a sea of fire. She shook her head and took out the handkerchief embroidered with words from her sleeve. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1054. The origin of the handkerchief. Ever since he took the handkerchief from Madame Du, Shao Qingyuan had handed it to her. Yundong had always kept important things in her space. The handkerchief was taken out of her space with the help of her sleeve. She handed it to Peng Zhongfei directly. Young Master Peng, your family runs a cloth shop, so you must be very familiar with fabric. Coincidentally, I just got a piece of fabric not long ago. I think this material is very good and feels very comfortable to touch. I want to ask young Master Peng, do you sell this material in your cloth shop? Peng Zhongfei secretly heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that. Luckily, it wasn't a big favor. Although he was a profligate son, he still had to manage his own business. Familiarizing himself with fabric was the most basic common sense. Therefore, Peng Zhongfei took the handkerchief confidently. Let me see. When he touched it, he felt that the material was indeed not bad. But Peng Zhongfei frowned and looked at it carefully. Then his face turned red. Yundong asked, Young Master Peng, do you know it? Don't be hasty. I haven't checked it carefully. Peng Zhongfei coughed lightly. He stood up and walked to the window. He looked at the light outside carefully twice. No one knew if he had figured it out or not, but he quickly sat back at the table and rubbed the handkerchief with both hands. Yundong was speechless. Hey, fortunately he only rubbed it twice. However, Peng Zhongfei used his nails to scratch it twice. Yundong could not take it anymore. She suddenly stood up, pulled his hand away, and retracted the handkerchief. She looked at it like it was a treasure. Thankfully, it wasn't broken, but there were traces. Yundong looked at Peng Zhongfei angrily. Do you recognize it or not? If you don't ruin it for me. Okay? Peng Zhongfei immediately nodded. Yes, of course. Yundong, Liu Wei, and Tao Yen looked at him suspiciously. Took him so long to recognize it. I really recognize it. Peng Zhongfei was a little anxious. I've seen this material before, but our cloth shop doesn't have it. It's not just our cloth shop. I reckon even the prefectural city doesn't have it. This material is fabric from the Qiu kingdom. It's usually a present to our country. Therefore, there definitely isn't much of this. Basically, it's bestowed to the concubines or high-ranking officials by the emperor after he obtained it. Yundong was stunned. Materials from the royal palace? No way. So you're saying that only those noble families in the royal palace or the capital have it? Was Brother Shao's identity so impressive? That's not true. There are also some among the commoners, but they're very few. It's definitely unavailable in shops. Although it was offered by the Qiu kingdom, the fabric that entered Dajin was basically used by the emperor to reward the concubines and officials. However, the Qiu kingdom also had business dealings with Dajin. If the commoners had the financial ability, it was not surprising for them to obtain this fabric. However, they definitely could not sell it. Otherwise, they would be courting death. Are you sure? Peng Zhongfei nodded vigorously. He was very certain. He had seen it once before when he followed his father to the capital. There was too little such fabric to sell. Yundong was a little dumbfounded. So, the scope was still very wide. The high-ranking officials and nobles in the capital had them, and so did the concubines and civilians. Where could she start looking? Also, it was unlikely that old man Li would go to the capital, right? However, she was certain of one thing. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1055. Going to the Zhang family. This handkerchief definitely had nothing to do with the Tao family. With old Master Tao and old Madame Tao's hatred for Tao Yan, they would definitely not give him such a rare and precious fabric to use. At the very least, before Tao Yan was carried away, this handkerchief would definitely not belong to him. This was Shao Qingyuan's. On the other hand, there was the word Shao embroidered on the handkerchief. She would look for someone with the surname Shao. Brother Shao's father might have the surname Shao. Yundong finally heaved a sigh of relief. She stuffed the handkerchief back into her sleeve. When she looked up, she saw Peng Zhongfei smiling at her. "Miss Gu, are you all right?" "No." Yundong smiled at him, wanting to see what he was going to say. Peng Zhongfei secretly heaved a sigh of relief. "Then let's eat something. Speaking of which, why hasn't this waiter served the dishes yet? It's been half a day." As he spoke, he began to criticize Liu Wei. "I say, your restaurant's speed is not good. Only I'm magnanimous and tolerant and won't argue with you. If you encounter a rude person, the table will be smashed." Liu Wei snorted and stood up directly. Come, smash it. Are you jealous of my restaurant's good business? Didn't I just ask you to pay? Look at how anxious you are. It's as if I've taken advantage of you." Before he came up, he deliberately told the waiter not to serve the dishes. Seeing how anxious Yundong was, he knew that she had something to ask. Was it good to serve the dishes halfway? Besides, he wasn't willing to eat at the same table as Peng Zhongfei. Who knew if the guy would go back on his word in the end and demand a discount? Peng Zhongfei knew that he was not a good person. "Did I make a mistake when I treated you to a meal?" "Humph. I'm not very happy to eat it. The Zhang family even treated me to wild venison. I'll eat it now. See you again." As he spoke, he gestured for Yundong to leave. Unexpectedly, Tao Yan, who was quietly listening to their bickering, was suddenly stunned. He asked, "Zhang family? Which Zhang family?" "Zhang House. The Zhang family that sells pastries? Are you very familiar with the Zhang family?" Liu Wei waved his hand. "No, it's just business dealings." Tao Yan stopped talking. Yundong took a few more glances at him, feeling a little puzzled. Unfortunately, before she could ask, Liu Wei urged her to leave quickly. As soon as he went out, Liu Wei snorted and asked the waiter to serve the dishes to Peng Zhongfei and the others. At the same time, he reserved a room to eat. Yundong grabbed him. "We're eating here? Aren't we going to the Zhang family?" "Are we? It's already so late. There's no point in going. I just didn't want to eat with Peng Zhongfei, so I came out on purpose," Liu Wei said happily, but Yundong was silent for a moment before saying, "Let's go to the Zhang family." She was a little concerned about Tao Yan's hesitation just now. Liu Wei's brows were tightly knitted. "It's all right. If my father asks, just say that I refuse to go. Hell just hit me." But Yundong had already walked downstairs. "But I suddenly want to eat venison." "Liu Wei, why would a woman like you be so interested in venison? Don't you know that's what it was supposed to enhance manhood?" At the thought of this, Liu Wei blushed. Seeing that Yundong was about to leave the house, She quickly chased after him. Luan was still waiting outside. When he saw them come out, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. When the two of them got into the carriage and walked back to the Sun family, Yundong asked, Peng Zhongfei and the others don't know about your engagement with Miss Zhang? Otherwise, why would they ask about his relationship with the Zhang family? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1056. Is this what Liu Wei called ferocious? Liu Wei pursed his lips. If even you don't know, how would they know? Yundong raised an eyebrow at him. Liu Wei said lazily, This is my request. I can get engaged, but they can't tell anyone. My father is afraid that if I'm forced into a corner, he'll run away without a trace, so he agreed. You know that I'm not satisfied with this marriage, but my father insists that I interact with Miss Zhang. He seems to be certain that he'll definitely like her. Can also be considered to be giving each other a way out. If I still don't want to get married to Miss Zhang, he'll silently cancel the engagement. It won't ruin her reputation. The Zhang family doesn't object to your request? Liu Wei said, There's a problem with the Zhang family's business. With the help of the Liu family, they naturally won't object. However, Miss Zhang is very angry. She's also fierce. Every time she sees me, she acts like she's the boss and I can only prostrate on the ground. This description was really indescribable. As the two of them spoke, the carriage stopped in front of the Sun family's house. Liu Wei asked Yundong to wait in the carriage while he jumped out. Not long after, he returned with Liu Yan. Yundong and Liu Yan had met twice. Although they were not as familiar as Liu Wei, their relationship was not bad. She sat next to Yundong and said, I heard from Liu Wei that this kid is too insensible. My father is also messing around and I have to trouble you to make a trip. It's all right. I'm friends with Liu Wei. I'm also very curious about his fiancée. Yundong smiled. Sister Liu, are you familiar with Miss Zhang? I've met her twice, but I can't say that I'm familiar with her. Although they were both young ladies from wealthy families in the county, Liu Yan was 7 or 8 years older than Miss Zhang. When she was still a girl, Miss Zhang was just a little bean. Later on, she married someone and gave birth to a child. She could not play with Miss Zhang. Although they had met twice, it was actually in a hurry. Yundong nodded. She knew what was going on. The Zhang family was really quite far from the Liu family. One was in the south and the other was in the north of the county. When the carriage stopped at the entrance of the Zhang family's house, a servant was waiting anxiously outside. When he saw Liu Wei coming down, he hurriedly ran over. Young Master Liu, you're finally here. Our young master is waiting for you. You? Before he could finish speaking, he saw Liu Yan and Yundong coming out. He was stunned for a moment. Mrs. Sun. Liu Yan smiled. I happened to come home to see my father. When I heard that you had a wild deer, I couldn't help but come over to join in the fun. Why? Am I not welcome? The servant suddenly came back to his senses. No. This way, please. I'll get someone to tell Miss now. Liu Yan nodded, and the three of them followed the servant into the Zhang family. Compared to the Liu family, the Zhang family was indeed smaller. However, it was still a big family in Fengkai County and looked very rich. When they reached the front yard, Liu Wei separated from them. The servant led him to the left. On Yundong's side, a maidservant led the way. After walking for a while, she suddenly heard a hearty voice. Sister Liu, you're here? As soon as the woman finished speaking, Yundong saw a figure walking over quickly. She was wearing a light pink dress, and the pearl hairpin on her head swayed as she walked. She looked a little cute. She had a bright smile on her face and 2 dimples on both sides. It was obvious that she was a sweet girl. Is this the ferocity that Liu Wei spoke of? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1057. Miss Zhang. Miss Zhang quickly stood in front of Yundong and the other woman. The dimples on her face were especially eye-catching and playful. She smiled and held Lu Yan's arm. Unexpectedly, she saw Gu Yundong standing at the side. Zhang Jiao blinked in surprise. This is... Look at me. I almost forgot to introduce you. This is Gu Yundong, Miss Gu. Lu Yan smiled and said to Gu Yundong, this is Miss Zhang Jiao. Zhang Jiao was stunned. She looked at Gu Yundong in confusion. Miss Gu? Is she from the Gu family in the north of the city? As far as she knew, there was only one family in the county with the surname Gu. However, she had seen the girl from that family before. Why did Gu Yundong look so unfamiliar? A trace of embarrassment flashed across Lu Yan's face as she said in a low voice, no. Gu Yundong, on the other hand, was very calm. I have nothing to do with the Gu family in the north of the city. I'm just a country girl. I happen to know Sister Lu, so I followed her out to see the world. Zhang Jiao was stunned. She sized Gu Yundong up from head to toe for a while before saying, Miss Gu doesn't look like a country girl at all. With her appearance and bearing, I would believe that she's the daughter of an official. Ha ha ha. Lu Yan covered her mouth and laughed. You know how to talk. Zhang Jiao was displeased. I'm telling the truth. With that, she ran over to Gu Yundong. Miss Gu, this is your first time coming to my house, right? Let's go, I'll show you around. Gu Yundong nodded and the three of them walked towards the backyard. Zhang Jiao was very cheerful and lively. As the host, she had been talking non-stop along the way. When they reached the reception hall, she led the two of them to sit down. Come, sit. Come and try my brother's new venison today. There were already many dishes on the table. The dazzling array of dishes was very sumptuous. Zhang Jiao took good care of Gu Yundong. Afraid that she would be too polite, she kept urging her to eat first. Gu Yundong could only smile politely, indicating that she could do it herself. After the meal, Gu Yundong's forehead was covered in sweat. She didn't have much of an impression of Zhang Jiao. She just felt that she was too enthusiastic. As for being fierce, only Liu Wei felt that way, right? After dinner, Zhang Jiao brought them around the Zhang residence. Halfway through, young Master Zhang Hao and young Master Zhang sent word that they would invite everyone over to play pitchpot. Lu Yan blinked at Gu Yundong and whispered, this is a chance for the two of them to meet and talk. With that, she immediately agreed. Sure, I like pitchpot. Before I was married, I was one of the top girls in this county. Zhang Jiao became excited. Really? Sister Lu is so powerful? Then, she looked at Gu Yundong. What about Miss Gu? Do you know how to play? I've never played it before. I'm just watching. She had never played pitchpot before. All this time, she had a lot of things to do. When it came to entertainment, she mostly spent time in drawing, playing chess, and playing puzzles with her younger siblings. Pitchpot? First time playing. Zhang Jiao smiled. It's fine. They'll teach you. It's very simple. Therefore, the group of people excitedly arrived at a courtyard of the Zhang residence and saw Zhang Hao and Liu Wei chatting and laughing. Upon seeing Zhang Jiao, Liu Wei jumped up reflexively and immediately took 2 steps back. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1058. Miss Gus first time Liu Wei narrowed her eyes and shot him a warning glance. Only then did Liu Wei try his best to restrain his urge to escape. However, he quickly turned his head slightly and looked at Gu Yundong. His gaze was filled with condemnation. It was as if he was saying, I asked you here to help, but you actually dragged me down and made friends with them. You're not human. Gu Yundong looked up at the sky. The weather was good today. Yes. Other than Liu Wei and Zhang Hao, there were also a few servants in the courtyard. It looked very lively. Zhang Hao was Zhang Jiao's brother. It was said that he was 5 years older than her. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes and was quite energetic. Seeing the 3 of them coming over, Zhang Hao hurriedly greeted them. You're finally here. Jiao, come over and help Big Brother. You've always been good at pitchpot. Let Liu Wei see it so that he won't think that he's invincible. Quick, help Big Brother defeat him. As she spoke, she pushed Liu Wei again. Compete with my sister. If you lose to her, you have to return the money you won from me just now. Jiao, you have to fight for me. Jiao frowned. Brother, you're actually gambling? It's just for fun. It's just 10 or 20 taels. Anyway, we're family. What does it matter? Hurry up and help me win back the silver. Jiao glared at him helplessly and took a few steps forward. Liu Wei was not happy. He moved to the side, straightened his neck and said, No, I'm a man and she's a woman. If I compete with her, it would be unfair if I win. The problem was that if he lost, he would lose all his face. Jiao raised her eyebrows. How do you know that you will definitely win? She was provoking him, but Liu Wei did not respond at all. In any case, I can't. If I compete with a woman, won't I be bullying her? Absolutely not. He shook his head repeatedly. Liu Yan, who was not far away, was almost angered to death by him. Everyone present could tell that Zhang had deliberately made the suggestion to create an opportunity for the two of them to interact. But he actually hid far away? Liu Wei didn't agree, and the scene became a little awkward. Zhang laughed. Forget it. Forget it. Looks like I can only do it myself. After saying that, he rolled up his sleeves and came forward, throwing an arrow into the pot. Liu Yan could only put in more effort to liven up the atmosphere. She was the second to come forward. Speaking of which, I haven't played in a long time. My hands are rusty. If I can't shoot accurately later, don't laugh at me. Okay? After so many times, this matter was finally resolved. Liu Wei was a playful person to begin with. Although he was unwilling to get along with Jiao, he became excited when everyone started to have fun. The four of them took 2 turns. Zhang could not help but look up at Yundong, who was sitting in the pavilion. He smiled and said, Miss Gu, why are you only drinking tea? Come along. The 3 girls can compete to see who's the best. Jiao hurriedly said, No, Miss Gu has never played this before. This is the first time. Then she said to Yundong, Let's not listen to eldest brother. He'll teach you how to play first. It's boring to compete. Zhang waved his hand. You're good at playing by yourself, but there's no need to teach others. They'll teach you. Miss Gu will definitely like it after learning this. Next time, you don't have to sit there alone and be bored. Liu Wei frowned. Why were the 2 of them joining in the fun? The Gu girl was not familiar with them. What was there to teach? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1059. Yundong crushes them. He was here, and Big Sis was here. Was it their turn? Liu Wei jumped into the pavilion in 2 or 3 steps. Ignore them. Just sit here and eat snacks and drink tea. Speaking of which, their snacks are not bad. After all, they were in the snack business. Yundong was silent for a moment before saying in a low voice, I remember you telling me in the carriage when you came. You once told Miss Zhang my name, right? Liu Wei nodded, but he looked confused. Yes, why? Yundong smiled. Nothing. She stood up and walked out of the pavilion. She didn't know if the 2 siblings saw that Liu Wei's attitude toward her was different, but they looked a little unhappy now. Liu Yan couldn't help but hold her forehead. This silly little brother. Yundong walked in front of Zhang and took out an arrow from the basket beside him. He said, There's no need to teach me. I saw that you guys played 2 rounds just now and have roughly learned it. Zhang quickly came back to his senses and said with a smile, It's not something that can be learned just by looking at it. You don't know, although this pitch pot looks simple, it requires agility. The angle has to be chosen well, and the wrist has to be exerted, the eyes. With a bang, the arrow in Yundong's hand flew forward and went straight into the pot. Zhang Jiao, Liu Yan. Liu Wei said, All right. Clap, 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 clap. Yundong's mouth twitched. Zhang, who was beside him, quickly applauded. Miss Gu is too awesome. She must have been lucky. Yundong picked up another arrow and threw it in with a bang. Good. Liu Wei continued to cheer excitedly. She did not want to look at her annoying brother. Fortunately, she still had Liu Yi at home. If he could inherit the family business in the future, the Liu family would not be declined just like that. Zhang Hao frowned slightly, but he quickly relaxed. Bang, 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 bang. Following that, there were a few more soft sounds. After that, the arrows were all in the pitchpot without exception. At this moment, everyone present was surprised. The pitchpot looked simple, but Zhang Hao was right. Skill was really important. They admitted that their skills were not bad, but it was not to the point where they did not miss a single shot. Even if it was them, it was impossible for them to not miss a single one of the 7 or 8 arrows in a row. Bang, bang, bang. Yundong nodded in satisfaction. Not bad. Other than Liu Wei, who had a proud and excited expression on his face, everyone else in the courtyard had wooden expressions. Zhang Jiao took a while to find her voice. Miss Gu, is this really your first time playing? Yundong nodded seriously. It's true. I never lie. Liu Wei secretly pursed his lips. Shouldn't you be honest with yourself? Yundong rubbed her wrist and continued. You also know that I'm just a country bumpkin. I've done too much farm work at home. I'm strong and my wrist is strong. That's why I didn't miss any of them. Is that so? Zhang Jiao was stunned. She looked at her, then lowered her eyes to look at her wrist. Yundong's expression was serious. That must be the case. Zhang Hao was so shocked that he could not say a word just now. Now, he finally said dryly, so there are such benefits to doing farm work. Looks like I should go to the field to train. Young Master Zhang, that's a good idea. Yundong agreed. Zhang Hao laughed dryly again. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1060. Have you fallen for Yundong? Yundong had thrown the arrows once and almost crushed everyone present. When she continued to play, no one called her. However, Zhang Hao and Zhang Jiao still came to her side from time to ask about her well-being, as if they were afraid that as the host, they would neglect her. Yundong also responded with a smile and continued to drink tea and eat snacks. Liu Wei's words made sense. The Zhang family's snacks were indeed not bad. However, after eating and drinking too much, she could not control her physiological reaction. Yundong saw that the others were playing and did not notice her. She called the maidservant beside her and asked her to lead the way to the toilet. The maidservant quickly responded and led her out of the pavilion. After walking out of the courtyard and making 2 more turns, the maidservant stopped. Yundong entered the outhouse. The maidservant was waiting outside. However, when Yundong came out, the servant girl was nowhere to be seen. Yundong could not help but rub her chin. Was the Zhang family going to do the same thing as the Peng family? Was it so dangerous to go to the toilet in a rich family? Could she be killed after going in and coming out? Couldn't be, right? She didn't have any deep hatred with the Zhang family. It was her first time meeting them, so she was very flustered. Yundong stood at the same spot for a long time, but the servant girl still did not come. Forget it, she still knew the way. She raised her foot and slowly took a small step forward. Just like when they came, Yundong turned 2 corners. Just as she was about to reach the courtyard, a voice suddenly came from the corner. She didn't want to stop. Really, even if the speaker happened to mention her name. However, if she didn't stop, she would directly bump into him. It would be a pity if the person who spoke couldn't finish his sentence. Thus, Yundong leaned against the wall and listened quietly to the voices around the corner behind him. Did you notice that Miss Gus' appearance is actually the most outstanding among the 3 of them? I did. She's indeed good-looking, but I heard that she's just a village girl. So what if she's a village girl? Even if she's a village girl, she's still better than us servants. She's even better than our... The person who spoke suddenly lowered her voice. She's even better than our young madam. That's true. Young madam's health is too poor. She's lying on the bed sickly all day. Young master doesn't even go to her room now. Speaking of young master, did you notice just now? Young master seems to treat that Miss Gu very differently. That's right, I can see it too. Eldest young master is especially enthusiastic about taking care of Miss Gu. From time to time, he would look at Miss Gu as if he was afraid of neglecting her. He even asked us to heat up the tea and snacks. In the entire courtyard, Miss Gu is the only one eating and drinking. Isn't young master asking us to bring hot food for her? Also, just now, young master said that he wanted to personally teach Miss Gu. In the past, when Miss asked young master to teach her, young master was very impatient. Do you think young master is interested in Miss Gu? I've never seen young master so concerned about someone. Sigh, so what if he's interested? With young madam around, it's impossible for young master to marry her. Who said it's impossible? The person who spoke suddenly became excited, but he tried his best to suppress it, as if he was about to say a shocking secret. Let me tell you, I just heard some incredible news yesterday. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1061. Solicitous. What news? Didn't young madam vomit blood yesterday? Dr. Liu came to the residence to treat her. At that time, he comforted young madam and said that she was fine as long as she took her medicine on time. However, the moment she went out, she sighed at young master and said that young madam probably doesn't have many months to live. What? The person who heard this exclaimed and quickly covered her mouth. She asked softly, Are you serious? It's true. At that time, I was leading the way for Dr. Liu and happened to hear it. Young master gave an order on the spot not to let anyone know. It was because you were close to me that I told you. I promise I won't say it, but this way young master might also marry Miss Gu. I think it's possible. Young master is very concerned about Miss Gu. That's not right. If young madam is really gone, young master will have to wait at least a year or two before he remarries. You don't understand, do you? As long as our young master brings Miss Gu into the house before the young madam dies, and then helps her become the young madam, it won't be a big deal. But what? But she's from a small family. Even if our young master likes her and wants to help her become his first wife, master and madam won't agree, right? That's true. Old master and madam would definitely prefer to find a suitable match for young master. Unfortunately, Miss Gu doesn't have any advantage. If she did, our old master would still be easy to talk to. That's right. Back then, young madam's family relied on a pastry recipe to get master to agree to the marriage between the two families. Miss Gu doesn't have any recipes. It's useless to say anything more. I'm not talking to you anymore. I still have to change the tea. The tea is cold. Then, Gu Yundong heard rustling sounds and the two of them walked further and further away. She closed her eyes slightly and leaned against the wall, wanting to laugh. Did he really treat her as an insensible country girl? She stood on the spot again. As expected, footsteps sounded again after a while. Immediately after, the servant girl who had led the way earlier hurried over. Miss Gu, so you're here. I'm really sorry. I saw that old Madame Wang was carrying some heavy things just now, so I helped her carry them over. When I came back, I didn't see Mississippi. I thought that Miss hadn't come out, so I waited outside. After a long time, I realized that something was wrong and quickly came over. This explanation, Gu Yundong smiled. It's all right, let's go. We've been delayed for a long time. Yes, of course. Young master and the others must be anxious. The two of them returned to the courtyard one after another. They saw that the four of them had stopped playing pitchpot and were sitting in the pavilion chatting. Zhang was the first to see her. He immediately stood up and said, Miss Gu, you're back. The kitchen has just made a new snack. Miss Gu, would you like to try it? Gu Yundong walked to her seat and sat down. On her left was Liu Yan, and on her right was Jiao. Jiao smiled and picked up a snack for her. Try it. This is delicious. It cost a lot of white sugar. Gu Yundong took a bite. Yes, it was a little greasy. They had indeed spent a lot of sugar. She didn't say much and watched the others talk and laugh. Zhang looked at her from time to time, but Gu Yundong just lowered her head and pretended not to see it. It was not until Lu Yen saw that it was getting late and was about to leave that she stood up. Zhang Hao and his sister sent them out of the house. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1062. What's wrong? After getting into the carriage, Liu Wei slumped in his seat. Lu Yen hit him and ignored him. She turned around and asked Yundong, "How is it? Miss Zhang isn't as fierce as Liu Wei said, right? She's just a little enthusiastic. You're not scared, are you?" Yundong shook her head and leaned against the wall of the carriage. "I'm just a little tired." Tired? Lu Yen was stunned. Although they had spent most of the afternoon playing pitch-pot, other than the 10 arrows, Yundong had not moved at all. She practically sat in the pavilion and ate. Although they had been chatting for the latter half of the day, it was not to the extent of saying that she was tired, right? Lu Yen seemed to have thought of something and quickly asked, "What do you think is wrong with Miss Zhang?" Liu Wei immediately perked up when he heard this. What's wrong? It was as if he would immediately break off the engagement if Yundong said anything bad. It seemed that he was indeed against this marriage. Yundong and Lu Yen looked at him with dark expressions. After a while, Lu Yen rubbed her forehead. "You're already an adult. Can you be more sensible? This is a huge matter about marriage. If I had been more sensible, I would have married Miss Zhang." Yundong shook her head and said to Lu Yen, "Let's go back to the Liu residence first." Liu Wei still wanted to ask, but she glared at him, so he could only wait patiently. After all, Yundong had just said that he was tired. Although she might be mentally tired, he could not force her anymore. What if Qingyuan found out and felt that his wife was being bullied? The carriage headed towards the Liu residence. Although Yundong did not say anything else, Lu Yen still lowered her eyes and began to think. She recalled today's situation and wanted to see if there was anything wrong. However, when the carriage stopped at the entrance of the Liu residence, Lu Yen still felt that Zhang Jiao's words were a little too loud and enthusiastic. Everything else was normal. The three of them entered the main door and walked all the way to the central room. Old Master Liu and Shao Qingyuan were talking. The two of them were now businessmen, so they naturally had many common topics to talk about. In addition, Old Master Liu felt that Shao Qingyuan was smart and considerate, especially when compared to his son. Hence, he liked this young man more. Seeing them return, Old Master Liu still looked like he had not had enough. However, he immediately stood up and looked at his daughter before turning to Yundong. "How was it? Did you have a good time?" Liu Wei felt that he was probably not a biological son. Seeing that his father did not look at him at all, he simply went to talk to Shao Qingyuan. Yundong sat down and took a sip of tea before starting to talk about what she had said and done when she first entered the Zhang residence. She described everything until she left the courtyard and went to the toilet. Old Master Liu nodded. "In that case, Miss Zhang is not bad. She's warm and considerate." He looked at Liu Wei. "Did you hear that? Even the Gu girl has a good evaluation of Miss Zhang. Hurry up and pack up to get married." Liu Wei exploded. "Father, are you deaf? When did she say that Miss Zhang is not bad?" Old Master Liu was speechless. It seemed that she had not come to a conclusion. He paused and turned to look at Yundong. The latter asked Liu Wei, "Can't you tell what's wrong?" Liu Wei blinked, then blinked again with a blank expression. Just as Yundong sighed and gave up on him, this fellow suddenly jumped 3 feet high. "I understand." He instantly became smug. "When I met Miss Zhang in the past, I told her Yundong's name. She clearly knew it, but she still deliberately asked if you were from the Gu family in the north of the city. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible.